Chapter 32-44. The 108 ancient swords were dazzling. They looked like they were made of neither gold nor jade. They were ancient and extraordinary. They were shrouded in vast sword chi and emitted shocking sword intent. Almost all the ancient swords in the sword pool were damaged. Only the 108 ancient swords were complete. They were constantly devouring the surrounding sword intent to nourish themselves. In Dugachilbai's opinion, the entire sword pool existed to nourish the 108 ancient swords. Could the 108 ancient swords be the inheritance left behind by the Sword Emperor? Dugachilbai's eyes glinted as he said slowly. He could feel that the 108 ancient swords were all supreme swords. They emitted vast Extreme Emperor's aura. Although they were not Extreme Emperor weapons, they had the potential to become Extreme Emperor weapons. The 108 ancient swords were nourished by the surrounding sword chi. They looked complete and undamaged. No one knew how long they had been nourished here. They must be the supreme treasures left behind by the Sword Emperor. Do you know the origin of the 108 ancient swords? The artifact spirit did not answer Dugachilbai's question directly. Instead, he asked with a sigh. His voice was filled with vicissitudes of life. I'd like to hear the details. Dugachilbai nodded and said. When the Sword Emperor fell, he used his own blood essence as a guide and his bones as swords. He supplemented them with extreme-grade metals and countless treasures to form these 108 ancient swords. These 108 ancient swords are actually the Sword Emperor. The artifact spirit's eyes were filled with sorrow. Sword Emperor. Dugachilbai's heart skipped a beat. The Sword Emperor was really bold. He was willing to use his own body as the foundation to forge the 108 ancient swords. However, how did the Sword Emperor fall? Seeing Dugachilbai's confused look, the artifact spirit shook his head and said, I can't say. The person who caused the Sword Emperor's fall is not someone you can fight against right now. The Sword Emperor left behind these 108 ancient swords to increase the chances of his inheritor winning. These are not the Sword Emperor's inheritance. They are just small gifts. Dugachilbai frowned slightly. The artifact spirit clearly knew something but was unwilling to say it. Or perhaps, he couldn't say it at all. All of this made Dugachilbai feel extremely pressured. How strong was the mastermind behind the Sword Emperor's death? The legendary transcendence who had surpassed the great emperor? If these 108 ancient swords could only be considered a small gift, then it was still a huge gift. Wang! The old artifact spirit waved his hand. Immediately, the primal chaos mist trembled and streaks of dazzling light streaked across the sky. They were all small transparent swords with human faces. They were extremely intelligent and were precisely those sword spirits. A total of 108 sword spirits. Grandfather. Grandpa, are we leaving this place? Grandfather, is he the successor of the great emperor? The sword spirits were all talking at once. Their voices were crisp and pleasant, and their eyes were filled with curiosity. Children. His name is Dugachilbai, the successor of the great emperor, and your future master. You have to protect him and these swords in the future, do you understand? The artifact spirit's eyes were filled with reluctance as he spoke in an incomparably benevolent manner. Grandfather, but we can't bear to part with you. That's right, grandfather, we want to be with you. The sword spirits were also reluctant to part with the old artifact spirit. Each of them was filled with longing as they swam around the old artifact spirit. Listen to me, children. I'm old, and I have my own things to do. It's best for you to follow him. The old artifact spirit smiled gently. The sword spirits nodded as if they understood. They glanced longingly at the old artifact spirit, then turned into streaks of light and flew toward the 108 ancient swords. The 108 ancient swords were unformed sword embryos. It was as if they were tailor-made for the sword spirits. They easily fused with the ancient swords. Boom! The 108 ancient swords bloomed with dazzling light at the same time as if they had been bestowed with life. They emitted an extremely strong aura of vitality. The sound of the swords shook the void like a dragon's roar. They intertwined with each other and emitted a terrifying sword essence. Swords, come. The old artifact spirit said indifferently. Rumble. All the ancient swords in the sword pool trembled at the same time. Sword chi surged violently, causing the surrounding void to tremble violently. The 108 ancient swords instantly shot up from the sword pool. They swept across the void like divine rainbows and appeared in front of Dugu Chilbai in an instant. These 108 ancient swords belong to you now. I hope you can treat them well. They will be loyal to you forever. The old artifact spirit looked at Dugu Chilbai seriously and said slowly. Dugu Chilbai nodded. His heart felt heavy. This was an indescribable trust. The 108 ancient swords in front of him were not only supreme sword embryos, but also supreme treasures that could become apex emperor weapons. They were also the incarnations of the Sword Emperor. It was as if the Sword Emperor had been reborn on these 108 ancient swords. Don't worry. Dugu Chilbai's palm was filled with crimson light. In an instant, 108 faint golden blood droplets flew out and fused with the 108 ancient swords. The ancient swords hummed incessantly, causing the surrounding void to tremble as they emitted dazzling rays of light. Suddenly, Dugu Chilbai felt that the 108 ancient swords were like his arms. He could control them with ease, and they could unleash destructive power at any time. From now on, your names will be Imperial Descent. Dugu Chilbai said slowly. The Imperial Descent swords were like the arrival of the Emperor himself. The 108 ancient swords hummed incessantly as if they were responding to Dugu Chilbai. After they fused with Dugu Chilbai's blood essence, they instantly turned into supreme swords and were refined by Dugu Chilbai. Dugu Chilbai's glabella shone brightly. The 108 ancient swords quickly flew into his sea of consciousness and were nourished by his indestructible primordial spirit. The artifact spirit's eyes were filled with reluctance, but at the same time, there was also a deep sense of expectation. All right. Now, it's time for you to accept the Sword Emperor's inheritance. The old artifact spirit took a deep breath and said with a solemn expression. What's the Sword Emperor's inheritance? Dugu Chilbai asked curiously. In his opinion, the 108 ancient swords could already be considered as the inheritance of the Sword Monarch. After all, the 108 ancient swords were formed from the flesh and blood of the Sword Monarch. They were supreme sword artifacts. When Dugu Chilbai reached the martial monarch realm, they would become true martial monarch weapons. Moreover, after Dugu Chilbai refined them, he could feel how terrifying the 108 ancient swords were. They contained an extreme emperor formation. Once unleashed, it could turn into a supreme sword formation that could destroy everything. It was extremely powerful. If this was not the Sword Emperor's inheritance, then what was the Sword Emperor's inheritance? The Sword Emperor's inheritance is in the sword pool. Go in. You'll understand everything when you get there. The old artifact spirit took a deep look at Dugu Chilbai and said. All right. Dugu Chilbai nodded. He then followed the old artifact spirit's guidance and stepped into the sword pool. Rumble. As if they had sensed Dugu Chilbai's life force, the ancient swords in the sword pool retreated one after another. Sword chi rose and chaotic mist filled the air. Dugu Chilbai felt an extremely powerful space-time fluctuation. The scene in front of him changed and he instantly appeared in a foreign world. Greetings, Lord Sword Emperor. Lord Sword Emperor, please calm the darkness, expel the strangeness, and protect our sword world. Lord Sword Emperor, you must win. Ancient and mysterious prayers could be heard. They sounded like the chanting of the ancient people. They were extremely sincere. Dugu Chilbai was currently standing in the void. He looked down at the mountains, rivers, and continents below him. Countless living beings were kneeling and worshipping him. Their eyes were filled with fanatical worship. In the sky, dark clouds rolled and lightning flashed. There was a strange black mist that seemed to contain some kind of powerful energy. It made Dugu Qiubai's heart palpitate. I'm now the Sword Emperor. Dugu Qiubai was shocked. His eyes were filled with disbelief. His appearance and aura had completely changed. Although Dugu Qiubai could feel that he was standing in the void, his appearance had become extremely handsome. His skin was as smooth as jade, his body was slender, and he was exuding an aura that was as vast as the ocean. Sword intent spread out, causing all the swords in the world to let out crisp sword cries as if they were worshipping their king. Dugu Qiubai could feel that he was more than 1,000 times stronger than before. There was an unparalleled extreme emperor aura in his body. It was the power of the Sword Dao. Dugu Qiubai could feel that he was the Sword Dao, and the Sword Dao was him. He could unleash a destructive power with a wave of his hand. Dugu Qiubai held a mysterious ancient sword in his hand. There were billions of stars flashing on it. Endless starlight flowed around it. It was dazzling and magnificent. It was the Sword of Stars. This was not his own physical body. This was the legendary Sword Emperor. Is this the mark left behind by the Sword Emperor? But why did I become the Sword Emperor? What is the Sword Emperor trying to tell me? Dugu Qiubai was puzzled. He realized that he had entered the Sword Emperor's body in a special state. However, he only had his own consciousness and could not control the Sword Emperor's physical body. Although he had fused with the Sword Emperor, he could only observe everything from the perspective of a bystander. It was a strange state. Rumble. Black lightning gathered in the sky, causing the surrounding void to tremble violently. The bolts of lightning were as thick as mountains. They contained pure destructive power as if they were going to destroy the world. Especially in the black mist, there was an extremely strong killing intent that locked onto the Sword Emperor. Could this be the scene before the Sword Emperor fell? Dugu Qiubai was shocked. He could feel the terror of the black mist. Even though he was hiding in the Sword Emperor's body, his soul could not help but tremble. The living being in the black mist was too terrifying. Even the Sword Emperor felt like he was facing a great enemy. Rumble. In the next moment, countless bolts of lightning descended from the sky. At the same time, beams of destructive black light shot out from the black mist and pierced through the Sword Emperor. Kill! A thunderous roar was heard. The Sword Emperor's eyes were as sharp as steel. He exuded a monstrous battle intent as he pointed the Sword of Stars at the sky. Buzz! He swept out with his sword, and suddenly, endless sword chi rose up like a huge screen of light. In an instant, it fell down and enveloped the entire world. One after another, devastating thunderbolts rained down with an incomparably horrifying aura. However, the moment they came into contact with the light screen of swords, they were all annihilated. Many of the living beings below were horrified. However, when they saw that the apocalyptic thunderbolts had been destroyed, they became extremely excited. They were all praying. The living beings in the world seemed to have contributed a trace of power of faith. The power of faith gathered together and surged into the Sword Emperor's body. It made the Sword Emperor's aura even more unfathomable. Clang! 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 The Sword of Stars slashed across the sky like a river of sword chi. It collided with the destructive light from the black mist. In the end, both of them were destroyed. The astral sword continued to hum as its power was stimulated to the extreme. Divine chains of order appeared one after another, turning into a vast and turbulent sword domain that swept towards the black mist in the sky. Extreme Emperor aura surged and the sword chi was extremely sharp. It could destroy everything. Dugu Qiubai was amazed. He could feel the power of the Sword Emperor. If he was in front of the Sword Emperor, he wouldn't be able to withstand a single strike and would die in the Sword Emperor's hands. The Sword Emperor was probably an invincible existence even among the great emperors. Rumble. The black mist became more turbulent and the attacks from it became sharper. The power of darkness was extremely terrifying and could corrode everything. Even the Sword Emperor was extremely solemn as if he was facing a great enemy. Although the being in the black mist didn't show himself, the battle between him and the Sword Emperor was extremely intense. The Sword Emperor has already merged with the Sword Principle. Dugu Chilbai was shocked. He had seen the Sword Monarch's battle with his own eyes. The Sword Monarch seemed to have transformed into the heavenly Tao and had fused with the Sword Tao. Every casual strike of his was an extremely powerful and unparalleled sword art. The void and time were nothing to him. The Sword Emperor had displayed extremely powerful combat strength. It was an eye-opener for Dugu Chilbai. He was even more eager to reach the Great Emperor realm. The battle between the Sword Emperor and the Black Mist continued for a long time. Even though the Sword Emperor's fighting strength was extremely terrifying, and even caused the existence in the Black Mist to cough out blood, the pressure that the Sword Emperor was facing was also getting greater and greater. Dugu Chilbai could see that the Sword Emperor's power seemed to be weakened under the invasion of the power of darkness. Even the Sword of Stars dimmed. The power of darkness could corrode everything. Even extreme Emperor weapons couldn't escape from it. Boom! Suddenly, a huge black hand came from the Black Mist. It was intertwined with the mysterious power of karma. It pierced through layers of void and appeared in front of the Sword Emperor in an instant. The Sword of Stars instantly released a dazzling radiance as though it had sensed a great threat. It started to protect its owner automatically. It formed hundreds of millions of sword lights and blocked the Sword Emperor. However, the huge black hand was ethereal and mysterious. It seemed to be able to sever all karma. It was transcendent and mysterious. The sword lights were shattered like paper. Kacha! The huge black hand imprinted on the Sword of Stars. The Sword of Stars trembled violently. Blazing runes exploded as though it had reached the limit of its power. An incomparably crisp sound rang out, and the Sword of Stars actually broke into two pieces. Puff! The power of darkness silently invaded the Sword Emperor's body. It caused the Sword Emperor to tremble violently. He spat out a mouthful of golden blood. This power of darkness is the opposite of Extreme Emperor's aura. Are they powers of different attributes? Dugu Chilbai was shocked. He could feel that if he was invaded by the power of darkness, his indestructible primordial spirit and physical body would be annihilated instantly. After all, even the physical body of a supreme emperor couldn't withstand the invasion of the power of darkness. This showed how terrifying the power of darkness was. The Sword Emperor seemed to have gone mad. His hair and beard stood on end. His aura surged violently. The mighty Extreme Emperor's aura swept out and caused the surrounding void to distort violently. He looked into the depths of the Black Mist. His eyes were filled with arrogance. Behind him, a mighty sword essence soared into the sky. The great way of sword was like a heavenly pillar that appeared between heaven and earth. Sword, come! Along with the Sword Monarch's roar, streams of sword chi instantly filled the entire world. They were densely packed and there were billions of them, covering the sky and the sun. The boundless sword chi in the Sword Emperor's hand turned into an ordinary 3-foot-long green sword. It was even surrounded by smoke and fire aura. It looked like a weapon used by mortals. However, Dugu Chilbai could feel an indestructible energy fluctuation from the sword. Kacha! The Sword Emperor took a step forward. The 3-foot-long green sword in his hand shone brightly and he slashed down at the black arm. The owner of the black arm seemed to be slightly angry. He snorted coldly. Boundless karma energy intertwined and formed a powerful sword chi that pierced towards the Sword Emperor's forehead. Rumble! The two supreme forces collided with each other. It was like the forces of light and darkness, causing the surrounding void to tremble incessantly. The boundless void was shattered, and even this world seemed like it would collapse at any moment. The two sword chi intertwined with each other. In an instant, a deafening tsunami wave erupted. The dazzling radiance covered all of Dugu Chilbai's senses. Has the Sword Emperor fallen? Dugu Chilbai was filled with doubts. At this moment, he hoped that everything was fake. He hoped that the Sword Emperor could hold his sword and fight against the heavens, shatter the darkness, cleanse the universe, and suppress all his enemies. However, he could only watch all of this with his eyes wide open. There was nothing he could do about it. PFFF. After the dazzling radiance dispersed, there was blood radiance. The black sword chi pierced through the Sword Emperor's forehead. The dark energy surged and shrouded the Sword Emperor in an instant. In the void, there was black blood splattering. The black arm had been severed by the Sword Emperor. The owner of the arm let out a furious roar. Obviously, he had suffered a great loss. However, Duguchilbai realized that the Sword Emperor had been infected by the dark energy. He was on the brink of death and would fall at any moment. Boom! At this moment, the star sword that had been severed into two suddenly gave off a dazzling radiance. A sword chi was released from it. It slashed across the sky and opened up a spatial door. Then, it brought the Black Sword Emperor into the spatial door. Obviously, the existence in the black mist didn't expect that the extreme Dao Emperor weapon that he had severed still had the energy to bring the Sword Emperor away. In the black mist, there was a terrifying killing intent that spread out. Instantly, it chased after the Sword Emperor along with the spatial ripples. Is this the scene before the Sword Emperor fell? The dark energy is indeed terrifying. Duguchilbai mumbled to himself. In an instant, the scene before his eyes changed and he reappeared in the sword pool. Everything that had just happened felt like a dream. However, Duguchilbai realized that the ancient swords in the sword pool had all turned into scrap metal. The vast and turbulent sword intent had disappeared and merged into his body to be refined by him. The sword pool in front of him was also completely destroyed. That wasn't an illusion. It was real. It was the mark left behind by the Sword Emperor. Is he trying to tell me something through this battle? Duguchilbai mumbled to himself. He had just entered the Sword Emperor's body and personally experienced the battle between the Sword Emperor and the dark energy. Duguchilbai had benefited a lot from this battle. He had personally experienced the power of the Sword Emperor and the terror of the Sword Principle. This would be of great help to him in the future. More importantly, Duguchilbai had seen the terror of the dark energy. Even the Sword Emperor, who was said to be invincible and once suppressed the heavens, had fallen in the dark energy. In the end, he did not even get to see what the living being in the dark energy looked like. That's a human arm. Could the mastermind behind the dark energy be a great emperor? Duguchilbai guessed. It seems like you have obtained the Sword Emperor's inheritance. The elder's words interrupted Duguchilbai's train of thought. That's right. This is an extremely precious inheritance. Compared to this inheritance, the 108 ancient swords are nothing. Duguchilbai nodded seriously. Just the experience of merging with the Sword Emperor and fighting the dark energy was already a priceless treasure for Duguchilbai. Moreover, Duguchilbai had also vaguely seen some information that the Sword Emperor had left for him during this battle. In the past, Ling Xiao mentioned about the strange creatures in the black mist. Now, it seems that the creatures of darkness are far more terrifying than we expected. Even Sword Emperor fell at the hands of the creatures of darkness. Duguchilbai thought to himself. I believe you have already memorized the scene just now. The information that the Sword Emperor wanted to leave for you is hidden in it. You will understand it in the future. I only want to tell you one thing on behalf of the Sword Emperor. The dark energy is not one of us. The elder took a deep look at Duguchilbai and said. The dark energy is not one of us. Duguchilbai's heart skipped a beat. The meaning of this sentence was very deep. After the Sword Emperor had attained the Tao and became an emperor, he had suppressed the heavens and made all the worlds submit to him. In the eyes of the Sword Emperor, all the living beings in the heavens were no different. However, the Sword Emperor said that the dark energy was not one of us. Could it be that the dark energy did not belong to the heavens? Duguchilbai was shocked at the thought of this. It was as though he had discovered a huge secret. The Apex. Chapter 32:45. You should go. I hope you can go further than the Sword Emperor. The artifact spirit said as he looked at Duguchilbai. His eyes were filled with hope. What about you? Duguchilbai asked. The artifact spirit of the stellar sword was a respectable old man. Dugu Qiubai could see that the artifact spirit seemed to have fulfilled his wish after he obtained the Sword Emperor's inheritance. He was surrounded by a deathly aura and did not have much time left. Although the artifact spirit had a long lifespan, the artifact spirit had obviously suffered serious injuries. He had barely held on for so long. The artifact spirit's loyalty to the Sword Emperor was moving. Moreover, he had found a suitable successor just as the Sword Emperor had hoped. Me? I have my own things to do. As long as the Sword Emperor's spirit remains, I will continue to follow him. Young man, the future of the myriad worlds depends on you. Work hard. The artifact spirit said with a smile. His eyes were filled with relief. He did not wait for Dugu Qiubai to reply as he turned around and walked into the depths of the chaos. The sword essence around him was vast and ethereal. Dugu Qiubai was speechless as he watched the artifact spirit disappear into the chaos. If the Sword Emperor's sword essence inheritance is in the Stellar Sword Tomb, then this is the place where the Sword Emperor passed away. All of you shall stay here forever and accompany the Sword Emperor. Dugu Qiubai murmured to himself. The two broken swords in his hands trembled slightly before they merged back together to form a stellar sword. However, even though they had fused together, the starry sword was still severely damaged. It no longer possessed the might of an extreme Tao Emperor armament. However, the significance of the Sword of Stars was even greater than the power of the sword itself. Whoosh! With a thought from Dugu Qiubai, the stellar sword flew into the chaos like a stream of light. It was where the artifact spirit had left. Buzz! A moment later, a clear sword chime resounded in the void as if it was responding to something. Dugu Qiubai knew that the stellar sword had fallen into the artifact spirit's hands. Although you did not say it, I, Dugu Qiubai, will take revenge for the Sword Emperor. Dugu Qiubai looked in the direction where the old artifact spirit had left and said slowly after a long pause. Then, he turned and left. Jian Mia, are you sure that the fake Ling Xiao obtained the Sword Emperor's inheritance? The Jianxiong Guardian asked as he looked at Jian Annihilation with an unsightly expression. He had just received a piece of news from Annihilation Sword. The person who had scared him away was not the real Ling Xiao, but an impostor called Dugu Qiubai. Dugu Qiubai. What an arrogant name. This old man hates people like him the most. Today, I'll let him have a taste of defeat. Beside the Jianxiong Guardian, there was an old man in a black robe. He had a head full of silver hair and a hearty face. His eyes were cold and sharp as he sneered. Shockingly, his cultivation had reached the peerless imperial monarch realm. Blade River Guardian, don't underestimate this Dugu Qiubai. He is scheming and cunning. He stole the Sword Monarch's inheritance that should have belonged to me. Once he comes out, his strength will increase tremendously. Jian Mia smiled faintly. He looked very carefree and did not seem to be in a sorry state because the inheritance had been stolen. Behind them, there was a group of cold-looking Imperial Monarch guards in armor. They formed a powerful battle formation and vaguely surrounded the unfamiliar area in front of them. This was the chaotic wilderness, outside the Sword Monarch's inheritance. After losing the Sword Monarch's inheritance, Jian Mia planned to work with the Jianxiong Guardian to deal with Dugu Qiubai together. The Jianxiong Guardian had even summoned the Guardian of the Sky Saber Imperial City, Dao He. The three peerless Imperial Monarchs had set up an inescapable trap outside the Sword Monarch's inheritance, waiting for Dugu Qiubai to appear. What are you afraid of? No matter how strong Dugu Qiubai is, he's only a mid-level Imperial Monarch. He's not even a high-level Imperial Monarch. What's there to be afraid of? We have three peerless Imperial Monarchs here. No matter how powerful Dugu Qiubai is, we'll make sure he dies a horrible death today. Dao He smiled proudly. His eyes were filled with disdain. He had always been arrogant and unruly. In addition, he had never fought with Dugu Qiubai before. Therefore, he did not care about Dugu Qiubai at all. Brother Dao He is right. In the entire Eternal Emperor Road, only Ling Xiao dares to look down on the Guardian's dignity. Even Ling Xiao is like a rat running across the street. He fled into the chaotic wilderness in a hurry. Who does this Duguchobai think he is? Jian Xiong sneered as well. He was someone who bullied the weak and feared the strong. Previously, he was scared away by Duguchobai's impersonation of Ling Xiao. Now that he knew the truth, he felt extremely humiliated and hated Duguchobai to the extreme. Since the two guardians are so confident, we'll capture and kill Duguchobai as soon as he appears. What do you think? Jian Mie smiled faintly. How could he not hate Duguchobai to the point of madness? However, he had already experienced Duguchobai's strength in the land of inheritance. Now that he had obtained the Sword Emperor's inheritance, he did not know what kind of heaven-defying inheritance he had obtained. In the future, Duguchobai would definitely become a huge threat after he fully digested the Sword Emperor's inheritance. Therefore, whether it was for the Sword Emperor's inheritance or to kill a great enemy, Duguchobai had to die. Of course, Jian Mie was extremely cautious. He did not place all his hopes on the two guardians. He had another trump card. In short, he had set up an inescapable trap and was waiting for Duguchobai to walk into the trap. All right. We'll listen to you. Jian Xiong and Dao He looked at each other and nodded. They had waited outside the Sword Emperor's land of inheritance for more than a month. Finally, someone came out. It was 4 figures. A man, a tiger, a goat, and a horse. The 4 figures exuded a majestic aura. Their emperor's aura soared and they were extremely powerful. Especially that figure. He was surrounded by a soaring sword essence. His aura was monstrous and sharp. It was as if he could unleash a peerless sword art with just a wave of his hand. Let's go. Jian Xiong and Dao He's eyes lit up. In an instant, vast origin energy rose around them. The fighting strength of a peerless imperial emperor was completely unleashed. A saber and a sword pierced through the void and slashed towards the 4 figures at the same time. The sword chi was like a vast galaxy that pierced through billions of miles of the void. The saber radiance was sharp and domineering. It was like a raging galaxy that could annihilate all living beings in 3,000 worlds. Jian Xiong's sword and Dao He's saber intertwined with each other. The power was multiplied. It was as if an azure dragon was going to destroy the world. It was mighty and unbeatable. Jian Mie followed closely behind them and made his move. The sword of sword annihilation turned into billions of sword chi, which came down from the 4 corners of the world at the same time. It was like a sword domain, which seemed to be able to destroy everything. The 3 peerless imperial emperors made their moves at the same time. The terrifying aura caused the chaotic wilderness to tremble violently. Rumble. In an instant, the 4 figures were completely shrouded. They were defenseless and took all the attacks. Then, they turned into nothingness. They did not even have the time to scream. Oh no! Jian Mie's face changed drastically. After the 3 of their attacks landed, he suddenly realized that although the 4 figures had powerful auras, they did not have any soul fluctuations. They had been deceived. The 4 figures were just puppets. Clang! At this moment, a sword chime resounded in the void. It was as powerful as a dragon's roar. A dazzling sword radiance descended from the 9 heavens. It was ethereal and vast like a divine dragon as it headed straight for Jian Xiong. Duguchobai had made his move. His sword radiance seemed ethereal and mysterious. However, it contained an extreme sword principle true meaning. It was a peerless sword radiance that he had developed after witnessing the battle between the Sword Emperor and Darkness. The sword radiance vaguely resembled that of the Sword Emperor. You're courting death. Jian Xiong and Dao He realized what had happened. They were both shocked and furious. Their eyes were filled with blazing killing intent. Jian Xiong, in particular, did not expect that he would become Duguchobai's target. Kill! Jian Mie shouted. Sword radiance rose from his body. He held an ancient sword in his hand and exuded a monstrous killing intent. He soared into the sky and charged towards Duguchobai. You're courting death. Get out of my way. Dao He shouted angrily. Saber intent surged around him. The strange-looking saber in his hand let out a tiger's roar and a dragon's roar. He swung his saber horizontally. It was like a huge wave sweeping across the sky. Jian Mia and Dao He could feel the terror of Dugu Qiubai's sword radiance. It even made their primordial spirits tremble. The sword radiance had the power to severely injure or even kill Jian Xiong. However, the more it was so, the more they had to act. They had to save Jian Xiong. The three of them would only stand a chance against Dugu Qiubai if they worked together. Jian Mia's heart was in turmoil. How long had it been? Although Dugu Qiubai's cultivation had broken through to the seventh heaven of the Imperial Emperor realm, his combat strength had undergone a tremendous change. Jian Mia felt inferior to Dugu Qiubai. Jian Xiong was flustered and exasperated. There was a trace of unconcealable fear in his eyes. Dugu Qiubai's strength had actually caused him to feel fear. He almost wanted to run away. No one can save the person I want to kill. A faint voice rang out. Dugu Qiubai flicked his finger. Instantly, streams of light flew out from his palm. They turned into 108 ancient swords in the void like divine rainbows. The 108 ancient swords vibrated and emitted a dazzling radiance. They formed a vast sword formation and blocked Jian Mia and Jian Xiong in an instant. Rumble. Within the sword formation, the sword radiance was like a dragon. It was extremely sharp and aimed at Jian Mia and Jian Xiong's vital points. It was so fast that the two of them felt chills all over their bodies. After Jian Mia and Dao He were blocked, Dugu Qiubai's sword slashed down and broke through Jian Xiong's attack that was full of flaws. Then, the sword penetrated Jian Xiong's forehead in an instant. Sword. Sword Emperor. Is this the power of the Sword Emperor? Jian Xiong stared at Dugu Qiubai with eyes full of despair and disbelief. Even though he was a peerless sovereign emperor, he was unable to resist at all. His indestructible primordial spirit was directly shattered. That's right. Jian Xiong's indestructible primordial spirit was shattered. Wrong. This isn't the power of the Sword Emperor. This is my Imperial Descent Sword. Dugu Qiubai said indifferently. The sword radiance exploded and Jian Xiong exploded. Jian Xiong's body turned into a mist of blood. There was no sign of life left. Dugu Qiubai walked over while bathed in the rain of blood. He didn't look at Jian Xiong again. Sky Sword Emperor City's guardian Jian Xiong was dead. What? How is this possible? Jian Mia and Dao He, who were surrounded by 108 ancient swords, were stunned. They didn't expect Jian Xiong to die like this. Jian Xiong was a guardian who was protected by the providence of the heaven Dao. Yet, he was killed by Dugu Qiubai with a single slash. They didn't expect the three of them to gang up on Dugu Qiubai. Clearly, Dugu Qiubai had seen through their scheme. First, he used the four puppets to lure them to attack. Then, with a single slash, he killed Jian Xiong. Even though they thought highly of Dugu Qiubai, they realized that they had underestimated him. The consequence of underestimating Dugu Qiubai was fatal. Now, Jian Xiong was dead. Ha ha ha, shameless scum like you dare to fight with our great sword Emperor Dugu? You guys don't know what's good for you. The white dragon horse laughed heartily. He was extremely pleased with himself and his eyes were filled with mockery. How generous. 3 peerless imperial emperors. Just for the inheritance of the Sword Emperor? Unfortunately, you don't know how strong Senior Dugu is. Daoist Wuliang sighed softly and shook his head. Jian Mie. The so-called descendant of the Sword Emperor is indeed a sore loser. Dugu Qiubai had already let you go once, but you still came to seek death. You can't blame anyone else. The old goat sneered and said. In fact, the three of them were shocked as well. Although they knew that Dugu Qiubai was strong, they didn't expect him to be so strong that he could kill a guardian with a single slash. Jian Xiong's providence of the heaven Dao flowed into Dugu Qiubai's body like mist. This meant that Jian Xiong was completely dead. Now, it's your turn. Dugu Qiubai said calmly as he looked at Jian Mia and Dao He calmly. Kill our way out. Dao He and Jian Mia looked at each other and shouted at the same time. Jian Xiong was killed. Their fighting spirit dissipated by more than half. They knew that it would be difficult for them to defeat Dugu Qiubai with just the two of them. They might even die. They decisively chose to retreat. Rumble. Dao He and Jian Mia unleashed their strongest power. Their sword will and saber energy intertwined and broke through the layers of sword qi in front of them. Then, they sent an ancient sword flying, trying to escape the sword formation. Take another slash from me. Dugu Qiubai said calmly. As soon as he finished speaking, his sword arrived. Beams of dazzling sword qi swept across the sky like divine chains of order. They contained a vast power of life and death. It was as if they had opened up a world of swords in the chaos. However, the world of swords contained endless murderous intent. Boundless sword world. It was a peerless sword technique that Dugu Qiubai had comprehended after witnessing the battle between the Sword Emperor and Darkness. Vast sword will surged. Dugu Qiubai seemed to have turned into the great Tao of the sword. His sword will was elevated to the extreme and turned into an extreme emperor's aura that enveloped Jian Mia and Dao He. This slash could split the sky and destroy the world. Jian Mia and Dao He's expressions changed instantly. Chapter 32-46. Jian Xiong and Dao He, the two imperial city guardians, had both died under Dugu Qiubai's sword. The old goat, Daoist Wuliang, and the white dragon horse were shocked and could not calm themselves down. Looks like there's one more person on the imperial city hunting order. Daoist Wuliang mumbled to himself. So what if there's one more person? These guardians are a bunch of trash. They only hide in the imperial city and don't dare to come out. Without the support of the heavenly fate, Ling Xiao and Dugu Qiubai could kill them like dogs. The old goat laughed proudly. Senior Dugu, Sword Destroyer has escaped. Let me bring you to hunt him down. The white dragon horse said eagerly. Its eyes were filled with excitement. Like a flash of lightning, it appeared before Dugu Qiubai in an instant. It looked like a lackey, without the arrogance of a dragon horse. Can you catch up to him? Dugu Qiubai asked indifferently. Don't worry. There's no one that I can't catch up to. Even the peerless imperial emperors aren't as fast as me. The white dragon horse laughed proudly. At this moment, Sword Destroyer had already charged out of the area covered by the 108 ancient swords and was 10,000 miles away in an instant. Dugu Qiubai smiled faintly. A strange look flashed in his eyes as he leaped into the air and sat on the white dragon horse. If that's the case, let's go after him. Following Dugu Qiubai's order, the white dragon horse kicked its hooves excitedly. Like a flash of lightning, it traversed the void in an instant. The dragon horse had the bloodline of the dragon tribe and the Pegasus tribe. It had extreme speed and could move the heavens. What the white dragon horse had comprehended was the origin of the space Tao. As the mount of an ancient emperor, the dragon horse's speed was not to be underestimated. Even though Sword Destroyer's cultivation was much higher than it, the dragon horse was gradually closing the distance between them. Sword Destroyer, I advise you to stop and wait for your death. You're dreaming if you think you can escape from your dragon horse grandpa. The white dragon horse shouted proudly as it chased after Sword Destroyer. Come after me if you're not afraid of death. Jian Mia's eyes were cold as he turned to look at the white dragon horse and Dugu Qiubai. He continued to fly towards the chaotic wilderness at an extremely fast speed. His entire person seemed to have turned into a dazzling sword light, traversing thousands of miles in an instant. Could it be that this fellow has some sort of backup plan? The white dragon horse asked nervously. Won't we know once we catch up with them? Dugu Qiubai said calmly. I'll be in charge of chasing, and you'll be in charge of killing. The white dragon horse said proudly as it increased its speed. One of them fled while the other chased. Soon, they arrived at the primal chaos wilderness. In front of them was a mountain shrouded in clouds and mist. It emitted an ancient and desolate aura. Seeing that Jian Mie was right in front of him, the white dragon horse became even more excited. Just as it was about to give chase, Jian Mie's figure turned and disappeared into the clouds. The white dragon horse hesitated for a moment. Seeing that Dugu Qiubai didn't say anything, it still chased after him and entered the mountains. Boom! As soon as Jian Mie entered the mountains, he could feel the surrounding void trembling. A desolate aura rushed towards him as though he had entered an ancient desolate world. Indeed, he has a backup plan. Dugu Qiubai muttered to himself as a dazzling radiance flashed across his eyes. Jian Mie didn't continue to escape. He remained on the peak of the mountain. However, there were 9 stone pillars on the peak of the mountain. They were shrouded in chains and looked ancient and mysterious. They were also emitting a powerful array fluctuation. Jian Mie was standing in the middle of the 9 stone pillars at this moment. Dugu Qiubai, you're really strong. I'll leave the Sword Emperor's inheritance with you for now. If you don't die, I'll come and take it myself. Jian Mie said as he stared deeply at Dugu Qiubai. Boom! Then, he slapped the 9 stone pillars decisively. Instantly, a dazzling radiance shrouded him. The 9 chains shattered inch by inch, and a powerful spatial ripple spread out. In an instant, Annihilation Sword was swept up and disappeared in front of Dugu Qiubai and the white dragon horse. A teleportation array left behind by the great emperor. So, that's your backup plan. Dugu Qiubai said flatly. His expression was calm as if he wasn't surprised at all. Rumble. However, as soon as the 9 chains broke, the surrounding space began to tremble. Deafening roars resounded through the void, and 9 gigantic prehistoric beasts appeared. They emitted an insufferably ferocious aura as they stared at Dugu Qiubai and the white dragon horse with their cold and bloodthirsty eyes. 9 great prehistoric beasts. Oh no, that's a trap left behind by Jian Mie. The white dragon horse exclaimed. It was both shocked and furious. It didn't expect Jian Mie to have a backup plan after escaping by releasing the 9 great prehistoric beasts. These great prehistoric beasts were comparable to the 9 great emperors. Each of them was ferocious. They're not real great prehistoric beasts. They're just battle spirits. They were all suppressed in that great array. Before Sword Annihilation left, he destroyed the great array and released them. Dugu Qiubai said flatly. Even if they're battle spirits, they're still very strong. Let's run. The white dragon horse said anxiously. It's too late. If we want to leave this place, we have to kill these 9 great battle spirits. Dragon horse, I won't have the energy to protect you from now on. You're on your own now. Dugu Qiubai said with a smile. He then soared into the sky. A blazing sword radiance was released as he charged towards the 9 great battle spirits. Bastard! The white dragon horse felt its scalp tingle as it moved away. However, the mountain range within a radius of 10,000 miles was enveloped by the array space. There was no way to escape. Just like what Dugu Qiubai said, they could only leave by killing the 9 great battle spirits. However, the 9 great battle spirits were great prehistoric beasts battle spirits. Even if their cultivation was inferior to the great emperors, they were still extremely terrifying. While Dugu Qiubai was fighting with the 9 great battle spirits, the white dragon horse could only move around. It used all its strength to dodge the attacks of the 9 great battle spirits. Rumble. Sword chi surged and divine radiance blazed. Accompanied by the ancient and powerful roars of beasts, Dugu Qiubai and the 9 great battle spirits were engaged in an intense battle. The 9 great battle spirits were spiritual bodies. Without a physical body, they had been sealed in the array for countless years. Currently, they only had the combat strength of an advanced emperor. The 9 advanced emperor realm experts were no threat to Dugu Qiubai. After a while, the 9 great battle spirits were all killed by Dugu Qiubai's sword. That brat, Sword Annihilation, got lucky. The white dragon horse said angrily. We'll meet again. Duguchobai said with a smile. He looked at the mountain range in the distance before he mounted the white dragon horse and left. Soon, the old goat and Taoist Wuliang caught up. Where are we going? The old goat asked. We're going to the 12 emperor cities as fast as we can. Duguchobai said slowly. After obtaining the Sword Emperor's inheritance, Duguchobai could vaguely feel that the Eternal Emperor Road was no longer peaceful. There was an oppressive aura that signaled the arrival of a storm. The dark creatures. At the thought of the dark forces, Duguchobai felt a sense of urgency. As for the death of the Emperor City's guardian, it was nothing compared to the dark creatures. All right. The old goat and Taoist Wuliang nodded. The four of them left the chaotic wilderness at an extremely fast speed and moved towards the end of the Eternal Emperor Road. As for Jian Xiong and Dao He's deaths, it naturally caused a huge uproar in the Eternal Emperor Road. However, no one blamed their deaths on Duguchobai. Instead, they blamed their deaths on Ling Xiao. After Jian Mia left, he had never appeared again. Therefore, no one knew the truth of the battle. However, Jian Xiong's subordinates had seen Duguchobai before. Moreover, it was Duguchobai who disguised himself as Ling Xiao. Therefore, the news of Ling Xiao appearing near the Sky Sword Emperor City and killing the Sword Hero Protector and the Blade River Protector instantly spread throughout the entire Eternal Emperor Road. This time, Ling Xiao was really famous. What? That Ling Xiao appeared in the Sky Sword Emperor City and killed the Sword Hero Guardian and the Saber River Guardian? This bastard is too savage. Tisk. This Ling Xiao is indeed the Guardian's nemesis. I'm afraid none of the Emperor City's guardians will dare to leave the Emperor City. The Emperor City's guardians are not cabbages. Every one of them is a peerless emperor. Ling Xiao killed the Emperor City's guardians as easily as chopping vegetables. How strong is he? It's hard to say. Anyone who has seen Ling Xiao is already dead. Is Ling Xiao going to kill his way to the 12 Emperor City? On the Eternal Emperor Road, countless cultivators were discussing Ling Xiao. Candle Dragon, Yang Kangzi, Jian Xiong, Dao He. The four guardians had all died in Ling Xiao's hands. Many cultivators were shocked. Ling Xiao's reputation had even spread to the ears of some ancient sky prides. But from then on, Ling Xiao never appeared again. Many people thought that Ling Xiao either had a way to hide his aura and sneaked into the Emperor City or entered the chaotic wilderness. However, no matter how they guessed, Ling Xiao had gradually become a legend on the Eternal Emperor Road. With the passage of time, the slaughter on Eternal Emperor Road became more and more intense. Everyone wanted to reach the end of the Eternal Emperor Road and fight for the fortune. Cultivators from all over the universe and countless sky prides fought bloody battles on the Eternal Emperor Road, leaving behind countless corpses. Once the so-called sky prides fell, they were like dust, losing all their brilliance. However, in the process of the Eternal Emperor Road's battles, there were also some supreme figures who emerged. They were dazzling and eye-catching. People thought that they were the most likely to reach the end of the Eternal Emperor Road. The wind of the Eternal Emperor's Road blew through the chaotic space, blew through the myriad worlds, witnessed countless battles of life and death, witnessed the bones of countless proud sons of heaven, witnessed the blood of heroes, and left behind many moving stories that were both moving and moving. 10 years, 50 years, 100 years had passed. Finally, a cultivator passed the test of the 96 Emperor Cities and entered the final 12 Emperor Cities. The 12 Emperor Cities stood at the end of the Eternal Emperor Road. The 12 ancient cities were hundreds of millions of miles high. They were like immemorial divine mountains, lying dormant in the chaotic space. They were ancient, majestic, and immortal. They circled around each other, as if forming a huge ring, surrounding the chaos in the center. The chaotic space represented nothingness. It was a land of nothingness. No one had ever set foot in it, so it was called the end of the world. The 12 Emperor Cities were ownerless. Apart from a few lucky cultivators who had been sent to the 12 Emperor cities right from the start, most of the cultivators who had entered the 12 Emperor cities were exceptional prodigies who had gone through countless bloody battles before they had been able to enter the 12 Emperor cities. Although the 12 Emperor cities were ownerless and had no guardian, there were still some native life forms. They lived in the 12 Emperor cities, grew stronger, and became a force that couldn't be underestimated. However, most of the native life forms of the 12 Emperor cities lived in seclusion and were neutral. They didn't participate in any disputes or battles. They only opened various restaurants and shops to do business with the cultivators. However, there was a recent big move by the native life forms of the 12 Emperor cities that caused a heated discussion among the cultivators. The Tao Confirmation Roll. The native life forms of the 12 Emperor cities ranked the Tao Confirmation Roll based on the cultivators' performance. There were a total of 36 people on the roll. As the name implied, the Tao Confirmation Roll meant that almost everyone on the Tao Confirmation Roll had a chance of confirming their Tao and becoming an emperor. Therefore, these 36 people were called the 36 kings by the busybodies. However, most of the 36 kings were self-proclaimed prodigies of the ancient era. There weren't many prodigies in this generation on the Tao Confirmation Roll, only a few. What surprised everyone the most was that Ling Xiao was also on the Tao Confirmation Roll. 36th on the Tao Confirmation Roll, Wang Ling Xiao. Main battle achievements: killed Torch Dragon Emperor City Guardian Zhu Jiuyin, Kuanpeng Emperor City Guardian Yun Kongzi, Sky Sword Emperor City Guardian Jian Xiong, Sky Saber Emperor City Guardian Dao He, and Sky Saber Emperor City Guardian Dao He. Inherited the Avicii Infernal Heaven Saber of the 4 Forbidden Saber styles. Vicious and bloodthirsty. Suspected to have entered the chaotic wilderness. Once the Tao Confirmation Roll is out, the 12 Emperor cities will be in chaos again. Isn't it? There are 36 people on the Tao Confirmation Roll. As long as you kill someone on the Tao Confirmation Roll, you can take their place. Who wouldn't be tempted? Although the natives probably have sinister intentions, many people can't resist this temptation, right? Those on the Tao Confirmation Roll aren't easy to kill. They all have hopes of entering the final destination and stepping onto the end of the world to fight for the Tao Confirmation Roll and even the secret of transcendence. If someone doesn't open their eyes, they'll die for nothing. What do you guys think about killing Wang Ling Xiao? Ling Xiao. He was able to enter the Tao Confirmation Roll by luck. I heard that he used despicable methods to kill the 4 great Emperor City Guardians. It wasn't his true strength. Otherwise, he wouldn't be ranked last. That's right. Killing King. That's not a good name. I think that if Ling Xiao dares to appear in the 12 Emperor cities, he'll immediately be challenged or even killed. Everyone in the 12 Emperor cities was discussing the Tao Confirmation Roll. At this moment, the person they were discussing finally arrived from the chaotic wilderness and saw the 12 majestic Emperor cities that connected the heavens and the earth. Chapter 32-48. We've finally left the chaotic wilderness. Ha ha ha, a voice of wild joy rang out, and it was mixed with carefree laughter that shook the surroundings. On the Eternal Emperor's road, 2 figures flew out of the chaos and saw the ancient and majestic imperial city in front of them. It was Ling Xiao and Kuanpeng. However, both of them looked very miserable. Ling Xiao's clothes were torn and stained with blood. His hair was messy and his eyes were bloodshot. He looked like a beggar. On the other hand, Kuanpeng's wings had fallen off. He looked like a roasted chicken that was about to be roasted. He flapped his wings and there were many wounds on his body. Blood was constantly seeping out. The wild laughter came from Kuanpeng's mouth. It was not easy. They had finally left the nightmarish chaotic wilderness. If Kuanpeng was given another chance, he would rather die than enter the primal chaos wilderness. It was scarier than hell. After the imperial city's kill order, Ling Xiao and Kuanpeng had no choice but to enter the chaotic wilderness. Along the way, they experienced countless hardships and narrowly escaped death. In the end, they were on the verge of despair. In the chaotic wilderness, there was chaos everywhere. Loneliness and gloominess were eternal themes. Not only were there all kinds of prehistoric beasts and strange ancient demonic insects, but there were also places where emperors had fallen and ruins of broken worlds. There were all kinds of dangers that were impossible to guard against. Despite Ling Zhao's powerful combat strength and Kun Peng's extreme speed, they almost died in the chaotic wilderness countless times. They relied on their faith to survive until now. In the chaos wilderness, there were no trial challengers. There was only endless slaughter and countless perilous situations. In the end, they became more and more silent, more and more depressed. But, their gazes became increasingly sharp and the infernal energy around them became increasingly thick. Of course, there were also opportunities. There were some rare treasures in the chaotic wilderness. There were also some inheritances left behind by experts. Therefore, Ling Xiao and Kun Peng's cultivation had increased significantly. However, compared to the dangers of life and death, opportunities were nothing. In nearly 100 years, they crossed the chaotic wilderness and completed an unimaginable feat. However, in the end, they made it out and saw the immortal and indestructible prehistoric city. That's right, we are out. 12 Emperor Cities. We should have reached the end of the Eternal Emperor Road. Ling Zhao's eyes also flashed with a trace of excitement. His eyes were bright and resplendent. It had been 100 years. Even though his state of mind had been tempered to the point that it was as tranquil as an ancient well, Ling Xiao still couldn't suppress his excitement when he saw the huge city in front of him. Yin Yang Emperor City. Ha, this is indeed the 12 imperial cities. No damned guardian envoys will make things difficult for us anymore. Let's go, let's enter the city. I want 12 women to dress me, and I want the best cook to cook me a table full of delicious dishes. Kun Peng's gaze landed on the words above the imperial city. He was incomparably excited as he chattered non-stop. The huge city in front of them was the Yin Yang Emperor City. From afar, the Yin Yang Imperial City was intertwined with Yin and Yang Qi. It looked ethereal and mysterious, flowing with all kinds of Taoist rhymes, as if it had merged with the surrounding chaotic void. Ling Xiao already knew that the 108 imperial cities represented the power of the great Tao of the 108 secret techniques. The Yin Yang Emperor City was one of the 12 supreme secret techniques. Naturally, they had also come to the 12 imperial cities. In the 12 imperial cities, there were no guardian envoys. It was the power of the heavenly Tao that maintained order. Therefore, no guardian envoys would make things difficult for them in the 12 imperial cities. The old goat, Taoist Wu Yang, and the others should have also arrived in the 12 imperial cities, right? Ling Xiao thought to himself, full of anticipation. After fighting and killing on the Eternal Emperor Road for so long, he was extremely tired and missed his old friends even more. Ling Xiao was also a little worried. The Eternal Emperor Road was extremely dangerous. He wondered if they were safe. Ling Xiao and Kun Peng walked towards the Yin Yang Emperor City. From the Eternal Emperor Road, there were constantly challengers with powerful auras rushing out. Their eyes were filled with excitement as they gathered towards the Yin Yang Emperor City. Even if they had passed the trials of the 96 imperial cities and walked step by step, it was much safer than entering the chaotic wilderness. However, those who could reach the end and reach the 12 imperial cities were all geniuses. Ling Xiao and Kun Peng could sense that the challengers' auras were condensed and their strength was terrifying. Almost all of them were experts above the high-level imperial emperor level. Of course, there were occasionally some low-level and mid-level imperial emperors. It was very likely that they were lucky enough to be sent directly to the 12 imperial cities. Darkness Soaring Cloud is actually in the Yin Yang Emperor City. Ling Zhao's heart skipped a beat. He could actually sense Darkness Soaring Cloud's aura from the Yin Yang Emperor City. His clone was a little far away previously, so he could not sense Darkness Soaring Cloud's exact location. However, when he approached the Yin Yang Emperor City, Ling Xiao actually sensed Darkness Soaring Cloud in the vicinity of the Yin Yang Emperor City. Suddenly, Ling Xiao and Kun Peng saw challengers flying out of the two ancient gates of the Yin-Yang Emperor city. It even caused quite a commotion. They were in groups of 3 to 5, and each of them was powerful. However, they were all heading in the same direction and were discussing something with each other. Say, who do you think will win the battle in Purple Withered Forest between Zhao Ritian and Chu Kuang? It's hard to say. I don't think Zhao Ritian is Chu Kuang's match. After all, Chu Kuang has the Blade Demon, who is ranked 18th on the Dao affirmation list. Zhao Ritian also has someone backing him. It's said that Zhao Ritian and the Demon Master are very close. The Demon Master is extremely ferocious. He's said to be no weaker than the experts on the Dao affirmation list. Although the Demon Master is strong, he's still a lot weaker than the Blade Demon, right? Ling Xiao and Kun Peng were stunned when they heard the crowd's discussion. Zhao Ritian. Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat. Based on the crowd's discussion, was Zhao Ritian going to challenge someone else? Let's go and take a look. Ling Xiao patted Kun Peng's head and said. Although Kun Peng really wanted to enter the Yin-Yang Emperor city, he was also attracted by the news of the battle. He nodded and quickly followed. Soon, Ling Xiao and Kun Peng found out the whole story from the crowd's discussion. It turned out that a Dao affirmation list had appeared in the 12 Emperor cities. There were a total of 36 peerless sky prides on the list. Every one of them was extremely talented and rare. They were said to be people who could affirm their Dao and become an emperor. The Blade Demon was ranked 18th on the Dao affirmation list. He was an ancient sky pride of the demon race. He was peerless and his strength was extremely terrifying. Ling Xiao was also listed on the Dao affirmation list. However, he was ranked 36th and last. The news of Ling Xiao killing the 4 great guardians had spread throughout the 12 emperor cities. Many people thought that if Ling Xiao could come out of the chaotic wilderness, his true strength would be even stronger. Zhao Ritian and Yu Yangchen had followed Ling Xiao to the Yin-Yang Emperor city. They happened to hear the Blade Demon's follower, Chu Kuang, speak rudely of Ling Xiao. He even said that Ling Xiao was unworthy of his reputation. Even if he was still alive, he wouldn't be able to take a hit from the Blade Demon. Zhao Ritian and Yu Yangchen were enraged. Under the provocation of someone, Zhao Ritian and Chu Kuang agreed to a battle to the death. Today, in the Purple Withered Forest outside the Yin-Yang Emperor city. Zhao Ritian, why do you have to do this? Ling Xiao laughed bitterly, but a trace of warmth welled up in his heart. That's not right. Ling Xiao, isn't Zhao Ritian your enemy? He has always wanted to defeat you. Why would he fight to the death for you? The fatty, Kun Peng, said doubtfully. What nonsense are you talking about? We are both friends and enemies. Moreover, this kid is very arrogant. He thinks that he is not weaker than me. If I am not qualified to be on the Dao affirmation list, doesn't that mean that he is not qualified either? I think this guy was provoked because he wanted to be on the Dao affirmation list. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. His guess was not far from the truth. With Zhao Ritian's arrogant temper, Ling Xiao was the only one in the entire universe who could be considered a worthy opponent. Not to mention the Blade Demon who was ranked 18th on the Dao affirmation list, he did not even care about the guy who was ranked first. Will Zhao Ritian be a match for Chu Kuang? Kun Peng was doubtful. After all, it could be seen from their conversation that although Chu Kuang was a follower of the Saber Demon, his cultivation had already reached the 9th heaven of the Imperial Emperor realm, the peerless Imperial Emperor realm. On the other hand, Zhao Ritian's cultivation was only at the 8th heaven of the Imperial Emperor realm. Although it was only a difference of 1 heaven, it was like the difference between heaven and earth for a peerless genius. Don't worry. Although I don't know who Chu Kuang is, he is definitely not a match for Zhao Ritian. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. He was confident in Zhao Ritian. As the son of the Heavenly Emperor, if he could not even deal with a guy who was not on the Dao affirmation list, how could he call himself the son of the Heavenly Emperor? In the last era, Zhao Ritian's father had swept through all heroes, moving unhindered and unrivaled. With the talent of being the #1 person under the heavens, he was peerlessly powerful. In the end, he became a heavenly emperor, ruling over the heavens. Zhao Ritian was known to be more powerful than his father. Chu Kuang was nothing compared to him. Then I'm really getting more and more interested in this battle. I wonder if the Blade Demon is around. Hee. His follower has been defeated by Zhao Ritian. I am afraid that the Blade Demon will not let this matter rest, right? Kuan-Peng chuckled as if he wanted to see the world in chaos. Let's go and take a look first. Ling Xiao said noncommittally. Purple Withered Forest was not far from Yin-Yang Imperial City. It was only a distance of 1,000,000 miles. For an Imperial Emperor realm expert, it was just a short distance. Purple Withered Forest covered a radius of 10,000 miles. However, it was unknown when it started, but it had completely withered and there was no sign of life. The withered trees formed a forest. However, it had been tainted by the chaotic qi and turned into an extremely strange area. It was as if there was a small world hidden within it. It was extremely mysterious. This was also the battlefield chosen by countless trial takers who wanted to fight to the death in Yin-Yang Imperial City. The purple trees in Purple Withered Forest were difficult to destroy. Moreover, it was easier to determine life and death in a battle here. Therefore, it was regarded as a battlefield by the trial takers in Yin-Yang Imperial City. Ling Xiao and Kuan-Peng soon arrived at Purple Withered Forest. In Purple Withered Forest, there were already a few hundred trial takers with powerful auras. All of them were looking at the two men in midair. One of them was a young man in a purple robe. He held a purple war saber in his hand. He was slender and handsome. His eyes were cold and he was surrounded by saber essence that was extremely sharp. He was the follower of the Blade Demon, Chu Kuang. The other one was wearing a golden armor. His body seemed to be burning with golden flames. His hair was dancing in the wind. He was handsome and had a divine aura. He was like a god of war who was standing proudly in the mortal world. However, Ling Xiao recognized him at first glance because of his flamboyant appearance and the arrogance in his eyes. Zhao Ritian. He had not expected to see Zhao Ritian here. Ling Xiao's lips curled into a smile. Rumble. Zhao Ritian and Chu Kuang were facing each other in the air. The aura around their bodies rose and surged like smoke signals. When they collided in the air, a thunderous boom could be heard. The terrifying collision of auras caused the surrounding people to tremble. Everyone's eyes were filled with anticipation. This was a huge battle, and it even involved a battle between two kings on the Dao confirmation list. However, Saber Demon was ranked 18th on the Dao verification list and was known as the Saber King. On the other hand, Numinous Firmament was ranked 36th on the Dao verification list and was known as the Killer King. In the eyes of the crowd, Zhao Ritian was more likely to lose than win. Zhao Ritian, if you admit defeat now, then I'll spare your life if you kneel down and kowtow to me 3 times and say that Ling Xiao is a piece of trash who doesn't deserve to be on the Dao confirmation list. How about it? Chu Kuang stared at Zhao Ritian and sneered. His eyes were filled with mockery. Admit defeat? You're probably dreaming, right? What makes you think you're qualified to judge Ling Xiao? If he was here, you wouldn't even be able to take a single blow from him and would die. And that Saber Demon, he doesn't even dare to show his face. Zhao Ritian sneered, giving tit for tat. The battle between you and me is not worthy of Lord Saber Demon's presence. After I kill you, I'll take your head back to report to Lord Saber Demon. You're just trying to win with your words. Perhaps Ling Xiao has already been buried in the chaotic wilderness. If he can't even enter the 12 imperial cities, how can he be on the Dao confirmation list? Chu Kuang said indifferently. His eyes were filled with disdain. Cut the crap. Although I don't like Ling Xiao, an ant like you isn't qualified to judge him. Since you don't know what's good for you, I'll kill you first. Then, I'll kill Saber Demon and replace him. Zhao Ritian sneered. His eyes were filled with an unparalleled sharpness. His battle intent soared into the sky, causing the surrounding void to tremble violently. Rumble. His murderous intent surged, causing the surrounding void to tremble violently. An incomparably terrifying murderous intent locked onto Chu Kuang. Zhao Ritian made his move. Chapter 32-49. Rumble. Zhao Ritian threw out a punch. His fist imprint was unstoppable like an ancient divine mountain, exuding boundless power in the void. Zhao Ritian's body was surrounded by chaotic light. His fist was like the opening of the heavens, instantly showing the destruction of 3,000 worlds. The Heavenly Emperor's Fist. Zhao Ritian's fist came crashing down, causing Chu Kuang's pupils to shrink. How could the demon race not recognize the Heavenly Emperor's Supreme Emperor technique? The reason why Chu Kuang wanted to kill Zhao Ritian was because Zhao Ritian was the son of the Heavenly Emperor. The demon race would not allow a second Heavenly Emperor to appear. So what if it's the Heavenly Emperor's fist? You're not even a peerless Imperial Emperor. How can you unleash the supreme power of the Heavenly Emperor's fist? Chu Kuang sneered. He was not afraid at all as he too flew towards Zhao Ritian to greet him. The demonic saber in his hand shone with blazing light. The saber intent seemed to have materialized. In an instant, it covered the sky and let out a clanking sound as it slashed towards Zhao Ritian. Heavenly Demon Slayer Saber. Chu Kuang roared. His entire body was filled with demonic qi. It was as if he had transformed into an ancient demon god, wanting to destroy the world with the saber in his hand. As a peerless genius of the devil realm, although he was a follower of the saber demon, his strength far surpassed most of the trial takers. All of the techniques he cultivated were Supreme Emperor techniques of the devil race Great Emperor, and their power was unparalleled. Therefore, even if he was fighting with the son of the Heavenly Emperor, he was not afraid at all. He even wanted to use this battle to kill Zhao Ritian and make a name for himself in the 12 Emperor cities. Boom! When the saber light and the fist imprint collided, it was as if they had slashed a mountain. A loud boom was heard and blazing light was emitted. Zhao Ritian's face was cold and arrogant. It was as if he was not afraid of the demonic saber in Chu Kuang's hand. The Heavenly Emperor's fist was unstoppable. It was mighty and mighty. Every punch was like a meteor that could destroy the world. It was unstoppable. The Heavenly Demon Slayer saber was derived from the saber intent of the ancient chaotic demon god war. It was ancient and mighty. It was unstoppable. When it collided with the Heavenly Emperor's fist, it was not at all inferior. Zhao Ritian and Chu Kuang's figures intertwined in the void and created chaotic storms in the surroundings. Saber light and fist will. An incomparably intense battle broke out between the two of them almost instantly. Are the Darkness Avatar and the Saber Demon not here? Only Yu Yangchen is here. Chu Kuang's side has more than 10 experts. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he sized up the situation on the battlefield. There was only Yu Yangchen on Zhao Ritian's side. His cultivation was also at the 8th heaven of the Imperial Emperor realm, and he seemed to be slightly alone. On Chu Kuang's side, there were more than a dozen experts from the demon clan. Each of them was filled with monstrous demonic qi. Their faces were ferocious, cold, and cruel. Zhao Ritian is not weak at all. However, even if he defeated Chu Kuang, I'm afraid it won't be that easy for him to escape, right? Kuan Peng whispered. Because he traversed the chaotic wilderness, suffered so much with Ling Xiao, and narrowly escaped death countless times. However, his cultivation had merely attained the 7th level of the Imperial Monarch realm. As for the surrounding cultivators, there were 7th and 8th heaven Imperial Emperors everywhere. There were also quite a number of peerless Imperial Emperors. This was a huge blow to the Kuan Peng, and it was dispirited. You're right. No matter who wins this battle, I'm afraid the demon clan is determined to take Zhao Ritian's life. Ling Xiao nodded as a glimmer of light flashed in his eyes. He could sense that among the surrounding cultivators, there were some experts with powerful but obscure auras who were filled with hostility towards Zhao Ritian. This so-called life and death battle was probably a trap. Kill! Chu Kuang roared in the void. His eyes were as cold as steel, and his killing intent was boiling. The demonic saber in his hand slashed down in the void. In an instant, dozens of dazzling saber radiances came crashing down on Zhao Ritian. Every saber radiance was like a black demonic dragon. It swept across the sky with unparalleled power, as if it could destroy everything. Zhao Ritian stepped into the void as his aura rose. His entire body was glowing with golden light, as if he was a golden god of war. Every step he took, he threw a punch. Every punch seemed to have opened up a new world in the chaos. The supreme power that could split heaven and earth collided with the demonic saber, shattering the saber radiances. Then, it went straight up and pressed down on Chu Kuang. Boom boom boom. The violent collision shook the surrounding cultivators. Their faces were slightly pale, and their hearts were palpitating. The two people in front of them had the combat strength of an unparalleled emperor. Their strength was terrifying, and the battle was unusually intense. Especially Zhao Ritian's Heavenly Emperor's fist, its power was extremely terrifying. Zhao Ritian was the son of the Heavenly Emperor, and he had the Heavenly Emperor's bloodline. In addition to Zhao Ritian's innate pride and arrogance, he was extremely compatible with the Heavenly Emperor's fist's invincible and supreme fist intent. His punches came crashing down. His fist intent was majestic like the sun in the sky, and it also seemed like it could open up a new world. As he swung his fist, it was unstoppable. Ling Xiao had also cultivated the Heavenly Emperor's fist before. However, he had to admit that the Heavenly Emperor's fist only shone brightly in Zhao Ritian's hands. The Heavenly Emperor's fist seemed to be tailor-made for Zhao Ritian. It gave him an invincible aura that made him invincible. Demonic Immortal Slaying Saber. Kill! 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 Demonic chi surged around Chu Kuang's body, and his eyes were filled with incomparably crazy killing intent. He was like a peerless demon, and the terrifying saber radiance kept slashing down on Zhao Ritian. His invincible demonic saber seemed to be deflated in front of Zhao Ritian. It couldn't even get close to Zhao Ritian, let alone hurt him. On the contrary, Zhao Ritian's Heavenly Emperor's fist made him feel extremely pressured. He needed to use all his strength to defend against every punch. At the same time, the strange energy seemed to pass through the demonic saber and into his body. It caused his body to tremble violently, as if it was resonating with the Heavenly Emperor's fist. This change shocked and angered Chu Kuang. The killing intent around him became even more intense. Chu Kuang, don't be stubborn. The Heavenly Emperor has even killed a few great emperors of the demon race. How dare you fight against the Heavenly Emperor's son? Surrender obediently and become our Lord Ritian's servant. Perhaps we can save your life. Yi Yangchen said loudly. His eyes were filled with incomparable arrogance. He didn't seem to be affected by the battle in front of him at all. He chattered non-stop, and his words were clearly heard by Chu Kuang. Die! Chu Kuang ignored Yi Yangchen at the beginning. However, he couldn't take it down after a long time. He was shocked and angry. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. In the sky, he slashed down on Yi Yangchen. Rumble! The 10,000 feet long black saber aura seemed to break through heaven and earth. Demonic chi filled the sky as it slashed down on Yi Yangchen's head. Swoosh! Yi Yangchen let out a strange cry and used the teleportation technique to dodge the saber attack. The black saber aura landed on the ground, causing the earth to tremble violently. A few purple trees exploded instantly, and a deep crack appeared on the ground. The purple trees in the purple withered forest were difficult to destroy even for ordinary Emperor realm experts. This showed how terrifying Chu Kuang's angry attack was. Chu Kuang, are you angry out of humiliation? As the saying goes, honest words are unpleasant to the ear. I'm just being nice to you. What's the future if you follow that saber demon? Why don't you follow the son of the Heavenly Emperor? Who knows, you might be able to become a demon emperor in the future and unify the demon world. If you continue to be stubborn, I'm afraid the wrath of the heavens will descend. Yu Yangchen sighed softly. Boom. 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 Taking advantage of the gap, Chu Kuang slashed a few more times at Yu Yangchen. The saber light was sharp and contained a pure destructive saber intent. However, the cunning Yu Yangchen still dodged it. Shut up. If you say another word, I'll cut off your tongue. How dare you sow discord here? If Lord Saber Demon is here, he'll kill you with one slash. On Chu Kuang's side, the experts of the demon race couldn't help but scold Yu Yangchen. All of them looked unfriendly, and their eyes were filled with cold killing intent. It was as if they would immediately attack Yu Yangchen if he said another word. This fly was too annoying. His incessant chatter annoyed them. They couldn't wait to kill Yu Yangchen. Alright, alright, alright. Since you don't want to listen, I won't say another word. However, Chu Kuang, if you don't listen to me, you'll be punished by the heavens. Yu Yangchen sighed softly. Boom. As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Kuang and Zhao Ritian clashed again. Unparalleled fist intent and saber intent intertwined in the void, forming a terrifying destructive territory. In an instant, it shot up into the sky and stacked on top of each other in the sky. A black and gold lightning formed in an instant. Then, it fell from the 9 heavens and struck Chu Kuang's body. Chu Kuang's body trembled violently, and his hair stood on end. He could only feel a terrifying destructive force entering his body, quickly destroying his life force. Puff! He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face instantly became extremely pale. What? Everyone was stunned. Chu Kuang was really struck by lightning. Everyone suddenly looked at Yu Yangchen, and their eyes were filled with an incomparably strange expression. What kind of jinx was this guy? That black and gold lightning was formed by the fusion of Chu Kuang's saber intent and Zhao Ritian's fist intent in the void. However, the probability of this fusion is only 1 in 10,000. It's very small. It was purely an accident. A white-haired imperial emperor stroked his beard as he explained. An accident? If it was really an accident, why did it only strike Chu Kuang? Why is Zhao Ritian fine? Someone asked doubtfully. Theoretically speaking, Chu Kuang and Zhao Ritian shouldn't be able to escape from the backlash of the fusion. However, I don't know why it only struck Chu Kuang. The white-haired sovereign emperor expert said somewhat awkwardly. This Yu Yangchen really has the body of misfortune. Ling Xiao said with a bitter smile. Others might not know, but how could he not know? Yu Yangchen was simply the reincarnation of a jinx. Whoever dared to offend him would be unlucky. Chu Kuang was provoked to attack Yu Yangchen. If he wasn't unlucky, who would be unlucky? Chu Kuang, are you going to admit defeat? Zhao Ritian asked while holding back his laughter. Chu Kuang's hair was disheveled, and the corner of his mouth was bleeding. He looked extremely miserable. He had suffered a severe backlash. It was obvious that it was caused by Yu Yangchen. At this moment, Chu Kuang's body was trembling violently. His face was incomparably ferocious, and his eyes were filled with rage and killing intent. He was on the verge of going berserk. Chu Kuang, I told you that you would be punished by the heavens. Why didn't you believe me? If you continue to be so stubborn, it's very likely that you'll die a violent death without even leaving a corpse behind. Yu Yangchen sighed softly. His voice was clearly transmitted into Chu Kuang's ears. Bastard, fuck your grandmother. Chu Kuang suddenly raised his head. His bloodshot eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared at Yu Yangchen and roared. Boom! He actually gave up on Zhao Ritian and slashed his demonic saber towards Yu Yangchen. Chu Kuang was about to go crazy. His mind was filled with Yu Yangchen. He just wanted to kill this fly with his saber. Swoosh! Yu Yangchen was extremely alert. Without saying a word, he moved far away. As he ran, he shouted, Chu Kuang, you're really going to die. I'm saving you. How can you repay kindness with ingratitude? Saving, you're great, Master. Chu Kuang's body was filled with demonic qi. The demonic saber in his hand was shining with an extremely dangerous sharpness. In an instant, it traversed through the void and slashed towards Yu Yangchen. He was about to go crazy from anger. Zhao Ritian's body flashed, and he instantly blocked in front of Yu Yangchen. Then, he threw a punch in the air. His fist intent was vast and mighty, and it collided with the demonic saber. Clang! The demonic saber let out a clang, and the void around it trembled violently. An unparalleled saber intent suddenly exploded. Zhao Ritian and Chu Kuang's body shook, and they both retreated at the same time. Zhao Ritian, get out of my way. I'm going to kill him today. Chu Kuang was furious as he roared. Chu Kuang, I'm your opponent. Zhao Ritian suppressed the laughter in his heart and said to Chu Kuang indifferently. You want to stop me? Then I'll kill you first, and then I'll kill him. Chu Kuang's body was burning with demonic flames, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. The demonic saber slashed down from the sky, and the saber intent was surging, enveloping Zhao Ritian. Your heart is in a mess. Zhao Ritian said indifferently, and there was a blazing sharpness in his eyes. In the next moment, an ancient sword appeared in his hand, and it emitted a shocking sword intent. It caused the surrounding chaos to rise violently, and a huge whirlpool was formed around Zhao Ritian. Kill! Zhao Ritian shouted indifferently. A sword slashed across the sky. Rumble! The sword aura swept across 30,000 miles, and the dazzling sword light was dazzling. In an instant, everyone felt absent-minded for a moment, and their bodies were shrouded by a chill. Vaguely, there seemed to be 3,000 mysterious runes that rose, and slashed towards Chu Kuang with the sword. Heavenly Emperor's Sword. Facing the frenzied Chu Kuang, Zhao Ritian finally took out the Heavenly Emperor's Sword. Heavenly Emperor's Sword. Chu Kuang's eyes shrunk. Who didn't know about the Heavenly Emperor's Sword, the peerless emperor weapon that shook the heavens? Chu Kuang felt a sense of fatal danger from the terrifying sword essence and the unparalleled murderous intent contained within the sword. He didn't dare to be careless. In an instant, he activated all of his cultivation, and even burned his demonic Dao origin. Vast saber intent poured into the demonic saber, and the demonic saber released a monstrous demonic aura that wasn't any weaker than the Heavenly Emperor's Sword. Buzz! 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 The Heavenly Emperor's Sword and the demonic saber instantly released a terrifying Extreme Emperor's aura. It was as if they had broken through the suppression of the heavenly energy, and the mysterious power within them was awakened. Vaguely, two mysterious shadows appeared above the Heavenly Emperor's Sword and the demonic saber. They were surrounded by the power of time and space, and their eyes were dazzling as they looked at each other across the endless void. The two Supreme Emperor weapons instantly collided with each other due to the sublimation of their powers. Rumble! It was as if the heavens and earth were being split apart. Boundless chaotic light rose, and instantly spread out in all directions, enveloping everyone within it. Chapter 3250. The Heavenly Emperor's Sword and the demonic saber seemed to be a pair of mortal enemies. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. He could feel that after the Heavenly Emperor's Sword and the demonic saber clashed, both of them unleashed an extremely powerful Emperor's aura. Zhao Ritian and Chu Kuang did not even need to do anything to unleash a terrifying power. The figures that appeared on the Heavenly Emperor's Sword and the demonic saber seemed to be the imprints left behind by two Supreme Emperors. Who knows? Perhaps the owner of the demonic saber died in the hands of the Heavenly Emperor. That's why the demonic saber is so agitated. The Kuanpeng chuckled. Ling Zhao's heart skipped a beat. The Kuanpeng's guess might be the truth. Rumble. The rumbling in the void gradually dissipated as the endless saber radiance shattered. There seemed to be an unwilling roar from the monstrous demonic qi as Chu Kuang was sent flying. Pfft! Chu Kuang spat out a mouthful of blood as the demonic saber in his hand trembled continuously. A deep wound appeared from his shoulder to his thigh. It was filled with a sharp sword qi that almost split him in half. You've lost. Zhao Ritian stood with his sword in his hand with a proud expression. His body was surrounded by a dazzling golden light and an extremely sharp sword qi that made his aura even more unfathomable. His eyes were indifferent as he looked at Chu Kuang below him and said coldly. Moreover, a vast and unparalleled sword will from Zhao Ritian's body locked onto Chu Kuang. The Heavenly Emperor's sword buzzed and vibrated, emitting an unparalleled murderous aura. It was as if it would unleash a shocking attack at any time. Hiss! This Zhao Ritian is indeed the son of the Heavenly Emperor. He actually defeated Chu Kuang. The surrounding trial takers all sucked in a breath of cold air. Their eyes were filled with incomparable shock. In their opinion, Zhao Ritian was more likely to win this battle. After all, Chu Kuang was a sky pride of the demonic tribe and had the cultivation of an unparalleled emperor. His strength was unfathomable and he had made a name for himself in the 12 emperor cities. Not to mention, there was an unfathomable demonic saber standing behind Chu Kuang. Legend had it that the demonic saber was the successor of the forbidden saber. He had once killed an ancient giant beast with one slash in the Eternal Emperor Road. His strength was extremely terrifying. It's hard to say. Although Chu Kuang seems to be injured, he might still be able to fight. Someone shook his head. That's right. Moreover, even if Zhao Ritian defeated Chu Kuang, the demonic saber behind him, I'm afraid demonic saber will make a move. There's no fairness, of the heavens and demonic saber. Of the demonic tribe and heavenly emperor of. Many of the trial challengers whispered to each other. They could vaguely see what was hidden after this battle. Chu Kuang's face was ferocious. His eyes were filled with killing intent and unwillingness. An epoch ago, the heavenly the Arch had descended upon the devil domain. The true devil supreme the Arch had fought the heavenly the Arch, but he had died at the hands of the heavenly the Arch. Even his indestructible primordial spirit had been obliterated by the heavenly Tao Emperor's sword. That was why the demonic saber went crazy when it saw the heaven's Emperor's sword. I lost. Ha ha ha. Zhao Ritian, don't be too happy. If you can take the next slash, you can say that you've defeated me. Chu Kuang's face was distorted as he stared at Zhao Ritian. The murderous aura around him was boiling as he exuded a terrifying aura. Boom! His flesh and blood started to burn. More than half of his life essence was burned away. Even his primordial spirit was sublimated as it exuded rays of demonic light. It was ancient and mysterious. A palm-sized blade light was released from Chu Kuang's body in an instant. It merged with the demonic blade in an instant and then expanded in the void. The heavens and earth trembled as chaos rumbled. Amidst the endless demonic light, a mysterious and vast hell seemed to be descending. Hell was evil and ancient, and it contained an aura of eternal darkness and depravity. It enveloped everyone within it, and it was accompanied by the wails of ghosts and howls of wolves. It caused everyone's hearts to tremble without end. A black saber radiance flew out from the hell. It exuded a mysterious Taoist rhyme and went straight for Zhao Ritian's forehead. What kind of saber technique is that? It's so terrifying. Even an extreme emperor technique can't compare to it. Someone exclaimed. His voice was filled with unconcealable trembling and fear. That's the forbidden saber. Ling Zhao's body trembled as his eyes were filled with astonishment. He did not expect Chu Kuang to be able to use the forbidden saber. No. He's not the inheritor of the forbidden saber. Someone left a seed of the forbidden saber in his body as his trump card. It can be activated by burning his flesh and primordial spirit at the crucial moment to unleash the forbidden saber's peerless radiance. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed as he thought to himself. Although the forbidden saber that flew out from Chu Kuang's body was different from his and Ba Dao's, they came from the same source. It should be one of the 4 forbidden sabers. Zhao Ritian, take my Avicii Hell's God-burying saber. Following Chu Kuang's roar, the black saber radiance was as if it was dyed with ink. It was strange and unpredictable as it arrived in front of Zhao Ritian in an instant. When the forbidden saber flew out from Chu Kuang's body, Zhao Ritian was alerted. The Heavenly Emperor's sword in his hand shone with boundless radiance. Sword chi swept out in all directions like a sea of swords, trying to destroy the saber. However, Zhao Ritian was shocked to find that the saber was in between reality and illusion. It was as if it did not exist in this space-time, yet it was real. Moreover, it did not seem to have any effect on his physical body. However, Zhao Ritian's indestructible primordial spirit felt a deep sense of fear. It was a god-slaying saber. Zhao Ritian, can you block this saber? Ling Xiao thought to himself. There was a tinge of worry in his eyes. It was too late for him to make a move. Even if he made a move, the forbidden saber had locked onto Zhao Ritian. It was a sure-kill saber. Only Zhao Ritian could block it. Thinking back to the battle with Ba Dao, Ling Xiao relied on the wordless heavenly book and the creation jade disc to block the forbidden saber. This saber technique that was suspected to be left behind by a transcendent level expert was extremely terrifying and strange. It was extremely difficult to defend against it with ordinary means. Rumble. At the crucial moment, Zhao Ritian's expression turned solemn. His body shone with golden radiance and his blood qi rose. Behind him, chaotic light rose and a mysterious figure vaguely appeared. The figure's face was blurry. Although it did not look tall, it had an invincible aura that could split the heavens and destroy the universe. Zhao Ritian clasped his hands together and a bright light shot out from his eyes. He suddenly roared, "Zha!" It was as if the heavens and earth were splitting apart, causing chaos to tremble. The terrifying sound wave seemed to have materialized as it surged towards the forbidden saber in an instant. Rumble. The black forbidden saber emitted a blazing explosion as it slashed through the terrifying sound wave. It went against the flow and slashed towards Zhao Ritian's sea of consciousness between his eyebrows. This was the god-slaying saber. It would not stop until the primordial spirit was destroyed. However, the terrifying power that Zhao Ritian unleashed was the might of a heavenly emperor. It was as if a heavenly emperor was about to descend, causing everyone around to tremble. In the end, the mysterious sound wave that could split the heavens and earth was shattered by the forbidden saber. The saber radiance swept across the void and pierced towards Zhao Ritian's forehead. There was a bloody light flickering between Zhao Ritian's eyebrows. Even his primordial spirit was injured by the saber will. It was slightly dim and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of Zhao Ritian's mouth. Crack. However, the forbidden saber seemed to have reached its limit. It became extremely dim and shattered in an instant. Although the forbidden saber had injured Zhao Ritian, it was still blocked by him in the end. What? Chu Kuang's pupils suddenly shrank. His eyes were filled with disbelief and shock. Kill! Zhao Ritian's eyes shone brightly as he shouted. The heavenly Dao Emperor's sword instantly flew out of his hand and pierced towards Chu Kuang's glabella like a dazzling ray of light. The sword was extremely sharp and the radiance was blazing to the extreme. It contained a vast sword will and wanted to kill Chu Kuang completely. Stop! Zhao Ritian, how dare you? Stop him! The dozens of demon tribe elites beside Chu Kuang were indifferent. They roared and charged towards Zhao Ritian in an attempt to stop the heavenly emperor's sword. At the same time, a few figures with powerful auras rushed out from the crowd of challengers. Their eyes were cold and murderous as they charged towards Zhao Ritian. Those who block me shall die. Although Zhao Ritian was bleeding from the corner of his mouth, his eyes were blazing with coldness. His murderous aura was boiling and his fighting spirit was soaring, causing the surrounding void to rumble. A blazing flame rose from his forehead and the Emperor Yen Cauldron instantly soared into the sky. It was like an immemorial sacred mountain as it pressed down on the dozens of demon tribe elites. At the same time, Zhao Ritian threw out a punch. The fist print was mighty and it swept across the chaos. It was like a chaotic whirlpool that covered the few figures with powerful auras. The heavenly emperor's fist exploded. The few figures were blocked by the heavenly emperor's fist. They roared and unleashed powerful attacks in an attempt to break through the heavenly emperor's fist and save Chu Kuang. However, it was too late. Previously, when Chu Kuang used the forbidden saber, he had expended a large amount of blood essence and primordial spirit power. This had worsened his injuries. At this moment, facing the Heavenly Tao Emperor Sword's furious attack, he did not have the slightest ability to resist. He could only watch as the Heavenly Tao Emperor Sword pierced through the void and pierced his forehead. Boom! There was an explosion of blood and Chu Kuang's head exploded. The immortal primordial spirit was pierced by the Heavenly Emperor Sword. It trembled violently in the void and exploded into a dazzling rain of light. A headless corpse fell to the ground. Chu Kuang was dead. What? Chu Kuang is dead? Everyone was extremely shocked. They did not even have time to react. Chu Kuang had died in front of them just like that. It was like a dream. The demon race experts who attacked Zhao Ritian were blocked by the Heavenly Emperor's fist and the Flame Emperor's cauldron. They were all stunned. Their eyes were filled with fear and anger. Chu Kuang was the most valued follower of the Lord Saber Demon. How could he die just like that? They could already predict how angry the Lord Saber Demon would be. They were afraid that they would be implicated as well. Zhao Ritian, you're dead meat. How dare you kill Chu Kuang? The Lord Saber Demon will not let you go. Zhao Ritian, you're too audacious. No one can save you this time. So what if he's the son of the Heavenly Emperor? The Heavenly Emperor is already dead. The son of the Heavenly Emperor should die together with him. The eyes of the experts from the demon race were filled with rage. Their killing intent was boiling as they surrounded Zhao Ritian, trapping him in the middle. The surrounding trial takers retreated, afraid that they would be implicated. Some of the weaker cultivators were so scared that they left the purple withered forest. Chu Kuang was already dead. The Lord Saber Demon would be here soon, right? Zhao Ritian had caused a huge mess. He would have to face the Lord Saber Demon's endless fury. Do you think you can stop me? Zhao Ritian sneered. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. Although there were many demon race experts in front of him, most of them were high-level emperors. Only the leader was a peerless emperor. However, his aura was far weaker than Chu Kuang's. Although Zhao Ritian's primordial spirit was injured by the forbidden blade, his battle intent was soaring. He was not afraid in the face of a group of demon race experts. That's right. If you know what's good for you, retreat quickly. Can't you see that Chu Kuang is your predecessor? Yi Liangchen sneered as he walked out from behind Zhao Ritian. For some reason, the demon race experts took half a step back when they saw Yi Liangchen. Their eyes were filled with vigilance. Yi Liangchen was too strange. It could be said that Chu Kuang's death was related to him. It was because of Yi Liangchen that Chu Kuang lost his mind and allowed Zhao Ritian to find his weakness. That was why he could be defeated so quickly. This life and death battle ended too quickly. Chu Kuang was dead before the Lord Saber Demon arrived. If the Lord Saber Demon was here, Chu Kuang would not have died. Zhao Ritian, how dare you? All of a sudden, a cold voice exploded in the void. Rumble. In the distance, endless demonic light rose. The saber intent was vast and unparalleled. It was as if it could break through the chaos. It contained an invincible and peerless aura. It was terrifying to the extreme. A figure stepped on the void, causing the chaos in the surroundings to rumble. In an instant, he was above the purple withered forest. It was a bald young man wearing beast skin. He looked incomparably wild. His muscles were firm and filled with explosive power. His eyes contained endless darkness. At the same time, there was a bloody light spreading out. He looked crazy and strange, as if he could bury all life. He carried a huge saber on his body. It was as black as ink and the saber light was unparalleled. It was dense with a terrifying murderous aura. It was like the wails of ghosts and howls of wolves, causing people to be intimidated. Needless to say, the same thought appeared in everyone's mind. The Saber Demon had arrived. Peak. Chapter 3251. Greetings, Lord Blade Demon. Lord Blade Demon, Zhao Ritian killed Chu Kuang. Please avenge him. Zhao Ritian deserves to die. Many of the demon race experts could not help but tremble when they saw the Blade Demon. Their eyes were filled with excitement as they bowed respectfully. They were all followers of the Blade Demon, and most of them were skyprides of the demon race. When they saw the Blade Demon, it was as if they had seen their backbone. You're the Blade Demon. Zhao Ritian stared at the Blade Demon in front of him, his eyes filled with pride. Zhao Ritian could feel that the Blade Demon was extremely powerful, far more powerful than Chu Kuang. Especially that ancient and cruel murderous aura, it was as if he had walked out from a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood that could bury everything. Zhao Ritian could feel an immense amount of pressure from the Knife Demon. Brother Ritian, this guy is not to be trifled with. Yi Liangchen shrunk his head and whispered to Zhao Ritian. The saber demon before Qin Nan was surrounded by a monstrous demonic aura as his saber intent boiled. His entire being was emitting a terrifying monarch aura, like an eerie demonic saber, causing the crowd to feel a chill down their spines. Zhao Ritian, how dare you kill Chu Kuang? Kneel down and accept your death. The Blade Demon's eyes were filled with cruel murderous intent as he stared at Zhao Ritian. He did not care about Chu Kuang's life, but Chu Kuang was his follower. Zhao Ritian killing Chu Kuang was a slap to his face. Moreover, Zhao Ritian was the son of the Heavenly Emperor. Based on this identity alone, he deserved to die. Where did this dog come from? Why is he barking here? Zhao Ritian sneered as he glanced at the Knife Demon from the corner of his eyes. His eyes were gleaming with arrogance and pride. Not to mention the Blade Demon who was ranked 18th on the Dao affirmation list. Even if the person ranked first on the Dao affirmation list appeared, what could he do? In the distance, some of the trial takers who had gathered their courage to stay behind were extremely shocked. Does this Zhao Ritian not want to live anymore? This was the exalted Saber Devil, an invincible 18th on the Dao corroboration list. His strength was heaven-defying, and his hands were stained with the blood of countless living beings. Numerous Yorwild's beasts, as well as powerful chosen, had died at his hands. He had made a name for himself. When the other trial takers saw the Saber Demon, they would immediately turn pale in fright and tremble all over. This was an absolute difference in strength, and they couldn't even think of resisting. Although Zhao Ritian was the son of the Heavenly Emperor, his cultivation was not at the level of a peerless imperial emperor, nor was he on the Dao ranking. Where did he get the confidence to fight against the Lord Saber Demon? You're courting death. Even your father is just a junior in front of me. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. The Blade Demon's eyes were filled with cruel killing intent. The murderous aura around his body rose up majestically, completely locking onto Zhao Ritian before him. The Blade Demon was not boasting. After all, he was a prodigy from several epochs ago, while the Celestial Emperor had only proven his Dao 1 epoch ago. Look at you. Why don't you go to heaven? So what if you've lived for a long time? That tortoise has lived for a long time, but I've never seen it come to Eternal Emperor Road. If someone like you had dared to appear 1 epoch ago, the Celestial Emperor could have smashed you to death with a single strand of hair. Yi Liangchen, who was hiding behind Zhao Ritian, could not help but mock him. How dare you? You're courting death. The demon race experts behind the Blade Demon were filled with murderous intent. The two of them were courting death. How dare they talk back when they were about to die? Ha ha ha. Very good. You've got guts. Let's see if you'll still be so stubborn when you're in my hands later. The Blade Demon laughed out loud. His laughter was filled with a bone-chilling intent. Rumble. He walked towards Zhao Ritian and Yi Liangchen step by step. The terrifying saber intent around him rose as though it had materialized. It was as though a world of sabers had appeared behind him. In the void, the saber radiance swept across the area. Clanging sounds could be heard as it emitted a blazing radiance. Streaks of sharp saber energy covered the entire area and locked onto Zhao Ritian and Yi Liangchen. Zhao Ritian's eyes were filled with a strong desire to fight. His body was covered in golden light and a vast amount of chaotic aura surged out. He was facing the blade demon in front of him. Their auras clashed and he was not at a disadvantage at all. In the eyes of the crowd, a huge battle was inevitable. Ling Xiao, can Zhao Ritian defeat the blade demon? Kuan Peng asked Ling Xiao from the side. I'm afraid it'll be difficult. Ling Xiao shook his head and said, Zhao Ritian's cultivation base has yet to break through to the Supreme Emperor realm. For an expert of this level, a slight difference can lead to a huge difference. The difference in cultivation base can be as big as the difference between heaven and earth. However, Zhao Ritian is not an ordinary person. His strength is enough to crush most Supreme Emperors. Most importantly, the Blade Demon is the successor of the Taboo Saber. He has the Avicii Hell's God-burying saber. It's a supreme saber technique that can destroy the primordial spirit. Now that Zhao Ritian's primordial spirit is injured, this battle will be very difficult. Then can you defeat the Blade Demon? Kuan Peng rolled his eyes and asked Ling Xiao. The Blade Demon? Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Although he did not say much, his eyes were filled with a strong desire to fight. His cultivation base was only at the 7th heaven of the Supreme Emperor realm. He was not even as strong as Zhao Ritian. However, the Blade Demon in front of him might be a strong opponent, but he was nothing to Ling Xiao. No one knew what kind of danger Ling Xiao had encountered in the past 100 years when he traversed the chaotic wilderness. No one knew what kind of path Ling Xiao had taken. In Ling Xiao's primordial spirit, 720 origin Dao fruits surrounded his indestructible primordial spirit like stars. They were all emitting a bright and perfect light. At the same time, there were traces of chaotic aura spreading out. 720 perfect origin Dao fruits had pushed Ling Xiao's cultivation base to the 7th heaven of the Supreme Emperor realm. However, Ling Xiao's true strength could not be measured by his cultivation base. Perhaps even he himself didn't know how strong he was. The Blade Demon in front of him was a very good whetstone. Thinking of this, Ling Xiao smiled faintly and walked towards Zhao Ritian and the Blade Demon. How dare you, Blade Demon? An indifferent voice, like a sudden clap of thunder, instantly exploded in the void. Everyone trembled and their gazes involuntarily fell on Ling Xiao. Where did this beggar come from? How dare he act so recklessly? A strange look appeared in the eyes of many trial takers. Ling Xiao and Kuan Peng looked extremely miserable. Ling Xiao's clothes were torn and tattered while Kuan Peng's wings had fallen off. He had become a bald bird. These two people swaggered in and actually dared to speak rudely to the Saber Demon. Could it be that they were tired of living? Ling Xiao. However, Zhao Ritian and Yu Yangchen could not help but tremble. Their eyes were filled with incomparable joy. 100 years had passed. They had finally met on the Eternal Emperor's road. Even though Zhao Ritian and Yu Yangchen's state of mind had been tempered 1,000 times, they still felt their eyes burning and their hearts surging with excitement. They were overjoyed. Brother Liangchen, Brother Ritian, long time no see. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. He was also inexplicably excited. Ling Xiao. You're the Ling Xiao who killed the 4 great emperor's city guards and fled into the chaotic wilderness like a stray dog. I didn't expect you to be able to walk out alive. The Blade Demon stared at Ling Xiao with a hint of surprise in his eyes. For an ancient sky pride like him, he knew better than anyone else how dangerous the chaotic wilderness was. It could be said that since ancient times, there was almost no one who could traverse the chaotic wilderness. Any challengers who entered the chaotic wilderness would be exiled. They were also known as the Forsaken Ones and would be buried in the chaotic wilderness forever. The fact that Ling Xiao had walked out shocked the Blade Demon slightly. Ling Xiao. He's the 36th on the Dao affirmation list, the chosen one of this era, the one who killed the 4 great emperor's city guards, Ling Xiao. The surrounding crowd could not help but tremble as their eyes revealed an incomparably curious expression. Compared to others, Ling Xiao was definitely a legendary figure on the Eternal Emperor's road. Killing the 4 great emperor's city guards was something that many ancient sky prides could not do. Moreover, if it were not for the fact that the Eternal Emperor's road was a little special this time, with countless ancient skyprides awakening from their self-imposed slumber, with Ling Zhao's identity as the Chosen One, there was a high chance that he would be able to walk to the end and dominate the world. He might even be able to create an era. The Heavenly Emperor of the previous era was definitely the most dazzling existence since ancient times. In fact, there was no one like him. However, Ling Zhao had killed the 4 great monarch cities' guardian envoys, which had caused the other guardian envoys to unite against a common enemy. At the same time, they had issued a kill order for Ling Zhao's life. However, Ling Zhao had entered the chaos wilderness. Entering the chaotic wilderness was like being exiled. Although Ling Zhao was ranked 36th on the Dao affirmation list, many people knew that Ling Zhao might never be able to come out of the chaotic wilderness. Today's battle was because Zhao Ritian and Yu Yangchen had fought with Chu Kuang and the Blade Demon in order to protect Ling Zhao. However, who would have thought that Ling Zhao would actually come out of the chaotic wilderness? Everyone's eyes widened as they stared at Ling Zhao. It was as if they were dreaming. They could not believe their eyes. Why do I feel that Ling Zhao's strength doesn't seem to be strong? He's a 7th Heaven Imperial Emperor. He's not even comparable to Zhao Ritian. How did he kill the 4 great Emperor's city guards? Someone whispered. His eyes were filled with suspicion. I don't know. His aura is indeed not strong. Moreover, he looks like he's severely injured. Could it be like what Lord Blade Demon said? Did he use some despicable method to kill the 4 great Emperor's city guards? Someone nodded and said. It was inevitable that everyone doubted Ling Zhao's combat strength. After all, Ling Zhao's cultivation was only at the 7th heaven of the Imperial Emperor realm. In the 12 Imperial Emperor cities, there were plenty of high-level Imperial Emperors. Even Supreme Imperial Emperors could be seen everywhere. A 7th heaven of the Imperial Emperor realm was indeed very inconspicuous and was even at the bottom. Are you disappointed that I've walked out of the chaotic wilderness alive? I seem to have heard you guys say that I'm not worthy of being on the Dao affirmation list. Ling Zhao looked at the Blade Demon with a faint smile. Although he looked shabby and travel-worn, he had an extraordinary aura. He walked to the center of the battlefield. His aura was as vast as the sea. He easily resolved the confrontation between Zhao Ritian and the Blade Demon's aura. He looked relaxed and did not have the slightest trace of artifice. That's right. I said that you're not worthy of being on the Dao affirmation list. Since you didn't die in the chaotic wilderness, let me see what qualifications you have to be this era's chosen one. The Blade Demon said coldly. His pair of cruel eyes stared at Ling Zhao. They were filled with bloodlust and killing intent. That's exactly what I want. I also want to see how strong the so-called ancient prodigy is. Take my blade. If you don't die, I won't kill you. Ling Zhao stared at the Blade Demon and said with a faint smile. What? This Ling Zhao is too arrogant. The crowd was in an uproar. He really doesn't know what's good for him. Lord Blade Demon can probably kill him with one slash, right? This guy, I think he's just a pretentious prick. He doesn't seem to have much ability, but his ability to talk big is not inferior to Yu Yangchen's. The crowd sneered in their hearts. Their suspicions about Ling Zhao grew. Ha ha ha. Very good. How many years has it been since someone said something like that in front of me? Even Bushuan Wushuang and Zhu No Divine King don't dare to be so arrogant in front of me. Ling Zhao, even if you don't die after taking my blade, you're going to die today. The Blade Demon looked deeply at Ling Zhao and then laughed loudly. The bloodlust and killing intent in his eyes grew thicker and thicker. Bushuan Wushuang and Zhu No Divine King were both ancient prodigies. Their strength was unfathomable. Moreover, they were both peerless powerhouses on the doctrine affirmation list in their previous lives. Bushuan Wushuang was ranked 10th while Zhu No Divine King was ranked 8th. Zhao Ritian and Yu Yangchen's mouths twitched. After not seeing Ling Zhao for 100 years, this bastard Ling Zhao had become even more pretentious. He had actually overshadowed the two of them. However, they did not think that Ling Xiao was boasting. Instead, they were filled with anticipation. They wanted to see how strong Ling Xiao had become in the past 100 years. Very good. Blade Demon, I'm going to use my blade now. Ling Xiao said with a faint smile. His expression was still as calm as ever. Clang! A clear clang rang out. It was clear and bright like a dragon's roar. It reverberated through the sky. A snow-white blade light appeared in Ling Xiao's palm. It was surrounded by chaotic mist. The blade of the blade seemed to reflect the bright starry sky. He took a step forward and the blade light gently slashed towards the blade demon. Apart from the clanging sound when the saber was drawn, there was no sound at all. There was a dead silence between heaven and earth. Only the lightsaber light was gentle and ethereal, like the rising sun, emitting a faint warmth. Everyone's eyes seemed to be in a daze. All of their attention was attracted by the blade. However, the blade demon instantly felt his hair stand on end. He felt that his entire body was shrouded in an endless chill. An intense sense of danger arose in his heart. This is the Avicii Hell's heaven-burying blade. The saber demon roared. In an instant, the surging demonic chi around him exploded like flames. Vast saber will surged out and turned the sky into an ancient and mysterious hell. Baleful aura, bloody light, murderous intent, death, destruction, darkness. All of the negative energies gathered together and formed a black blade light. It slashed towards Ling Xiao's forehead. Avicii Hell's heaven-burying blade. When he felt that Ling Xiao was using the forbidden blade, he did not hesitate to use the forbidden blade as well. Chapter 3252. Rumble. Two peerless saber radiances, one black and one white, collided in the void. Avicii Hell's heaven-burying saber was a saber that cut the heart. Avicii Hell's heaven-burying saber was a saber that cut the soul. The two forbidden saber techniques were both saber techniques of the void. They didn't strike the physical body and only struck the Tao heart and primordial spirit. However, they were far more terrifying and dangerous than other saber techniques. Moreover, the saber techniques were indomitable and had to strike the target before stopping. Just like Zhao Ritian, when he faced Chu Kuang, although only one forbidden saber radiance was sealed on Chu Kuang's body, it still injured Zhao Ritian's primordial spirit. The four forbidden saber techniques were extremely domineering, but each of them had their own advantages. The saber light in Ling Xiao's palm was like a ripple of water, gently spreading out without a sound. It was as clear as glass, reflecting the saber demon's incomparably serious eyes. The saber radiance slashed towards the saber demon. Ling Xiao looked indifferent and had no intention of blocking the saber demon. Fighting with your life? Let's see who has a tougher life. Seeing that Ling Xiao had no intention of blocking, Knife Demon's eyes revealed an incomparably crazy look. The murderous aura around him became thicker and thicker. Knife essence boiled and surged, causing the black knife light to become even more unpredictable. Crack! Ling Xiao's saber radiance seemed to have dazzling starlight and mysterious chaotic light lingering around it. It instantly penetrated the saber demon's protective demonic aura and slashed into his body. It was formless and intangible. The saber demon did not have any injuries on his body, but he heard a crisp sound as if something had cracked. The black saber radiance also pierced through Ling Xiao's sea of consciousness between his eyebrows and slashed towards his indestructible primordial spirit. When he sensed the forbidden saber, the 720 origin Tao fruits in Ling Xiao's sea of consciousness shone brightly at the same time. Mysterious boundaries intertwined and enveloped Ling Xiao's indestructible primordial spirit. A total of 720 barriers stood in front of the forbidden saber, emitting an immortal glow. Rumble. The taboo blade destroyed everything. The source enchantment trembled violently and shattered in an instant. The barriers were destroyed one after another, and the forbidden saber was getting closer and closer to Ling Xiao's indestructible primordial spirit. In the blink of an eye, 720 enchantments exploded with a loud bang. Just as the forbidden blade was about to strike Ling Xiao's indestructible primordial spirit without any obstruction, the shattered boundary suddenly turned into a chaotic storm that contained the supreme power of destruction. It directly enveloped the black blade light. Crack! The black blade light only lasted for a moment before it was completely annihilated by the chaotic storm. The shattered saber light turned into mysterious runes. They trembled in the void and were about to dissipate. However, the 720 origin Dao fruits shone with resplendent light at the same time. Chains of order coiled out and enveloped the runes. Afterwards, the runes were drawn into Ling Xiao's sea of consciousness and refined. As expected, Ling Xiao seemed to have verified a guess in his heart, and his eyes were incomparably bright. Pft! However, the blade demon's entire body trembled violently. He spat out a mouthful of black blood, and his aura instantly weakened. You actually destroyed my forbidden saber? The blade demon's eyes were filled with horror. Ling Xiao did not block the forbidden saber, nor did he take it head-on. Instead, he destroyed the forbidden saber. Ling Xiao himself was not injured at all. This was even more shocking than Ling Xiao's forbidden saber, which had shattered his Dao heart. For countless epochs, he had never heard of anyone who could destroy the forbidden saber. This was a power that surpassed an ultimate emperor art. One could only take it head-on or block it with supreme treasures. However, Ling Xiao had destroyed the forbidden saber and even intercepted part of the forbidden saber's saber intent. This caused the blade demon to suffer a backlash and vomit blood. The surrounding crowd was baffled by this scene, but their eyes were also filled with disbelief and shock. Just now, Ling Xiao and the blade demon had each used a saber move. The blade demon's forbidden saber was naturally well known. It could destroy one's vital essence and spirit. Ling Xiao's saber move was as light as a feather, without the slightest trace of smoke or fire. It was like a saber move of a mortal. It was far less terrifying than the blade demon's. However, the result was that Ling Xiao was unharmed, and the blade demon was vomiting blood. The blade demon was defeated with one move. How is this possible? The devil race experts behind Blade Demon were also incomparably shocked. This had already exceeded their understanding. Lord Blade Demon was so powerful that only Zhu Wuxian Wang was stronger than him in the entire Yin Yang Emperor city. However, Lord Blade Demon was defeated. You've lost. Ling Xiao looked at the Blade Demon and said indifferently. The Blade Demon trembled. When he saw Ling Xiao's calm eyes, he instantly felt numb. An uncontrollable fear surged from the depths of his heart. If not for the fact that he had a strong will, Ling Xiao's words would probably have made him run for his life. How did you do it? The Blade Demon's eyes were filled with unwillingness. Do you want to know? Take another move from me and I'll tell you. However, it's hard to say if you'll be able to hear me. Ling Xiao said indifferently. He stood in the air with his hands behind his back. His aura was ethereal and mysterious. He had an extremely mysterious temperament that made people not dare to look at him directly. Even Zhao Ritian and Yu Yangchen had to admit that Ling Xiao's move had shocked everyone. Even Blade Demon couldn't take a single blow from him. Just how powerful was Ling Xiao? The Blade Demon's eyes twitched. He looked deeply at Ling Xiao and said, Ling Xiao, I admit defeat today. However, you and I still have a fight in the realm of nothingness. He was practically gnashing his teeth as he said this. He also understood that after saying this, it meant that he had already shown weakness. However, his current state was no longer suitable to continue fighting. If he continued fighting, he might very well die here. That's right. However, the next fight will determine life and death. Ling Xiao said indifferently. Let's go. The Blade Demon's face was extremely gloomy. He immediately turned around and led a group of Demon Clan experts away from the purple withered forest. The Blade Demon ran away without a fight. Many of the challengers were shocked by the Blade Demon's reaction. It was just a clash of swords. The Blade Demon was not completely defenseless. However, he was willing to leave just like that. Although many people did not know what was going on, their gazes towards Ling Xiao were filled with awe and respect. Ling Xiao, why did you let the blade demon go? You could have just killed him with one move. Kuan Peng came up and whispered softly. Don't talk. Hurry up and hold me back. I can't take it anymore. Ling Xiao said to Kuan Peng through telepathy. His voice was filled with helplessness. What? Kuan Peng was shocked. He looked at the blade demon and the rest who were not far away. He immediately acted like a thief and rushed to Ling Xiao's feet. Then, he channeled an endless amount of origin energy into Ling Xiao's body. Phew! I almost exposed myself. What a domineering forbidden saber. Ling Xiao heaved a sigh of relief and smiled bitterly. Although he had confirmed some of his guesses, there were still some surprises. He did not expect that after the blade demon's Avicii Hell's burial saber blade was destroyed, the 720 origin Dao fruits actually retained part of the saber essence. At this moment, it had turned into a black saber radiance in his primordial spirit. It exuded an ancient and mysterious aura. In order to keep this saber intent, Ling Xiao's cultivation and strength had basically been sealed up. He almost fell out of the void. Therefore, it was not that he did not want to keep the blade demon alive. He was just too weak. Ling Xiao, are you alright? Zhao Ritian and Yu Yangchen's eyes lit up. They seemed to have noticed something and quickly flew over to Ling Xiao through telepathy. I'm fine. I just can't use my cultivation temporarily. There are too many people here. Let's leave this place first. Ling Xiao looked at the challengers who had not completely left and said to Zhao Ritian and Yu Yangchen through telepathy. All right. They nodded and acted as if nothing had happened. They left Purple Withered Forest with Kuan Peng and flew towards Yin Yang Emperor City. In Purple Withered Forest, the result of the battle quickly spread back to Yin Yang Emperor City as if it had grown wings. The entire Yin Yang Emperor City was shaken. The battle between Zhao Ritian and Chu Kuang had ended with Chu Kuang's death at Zhao Ritian's hands. However, what was even more shocking was that King Killer Ling Xiao, who was ranked 36th on the Dao confirmation list, had returned. In Purple Withered Forest, Ling Xiao had injured the blade demon with a single slash. The blade demon had no choice but to retreat while vomiting blood. When this news reached Yin Yang Emperor City, everyone was stunned. Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao, who is ranked 36th on the Dao confirmation list, is back. He defeated the blade demon. How is this possible? The blade demon is ranked 18th on the Dao confirmation list. How did Ling Xiao do it? Ling Xiao is no ordinary person. Although he is not an ancient prodigy, he is the chosen one of this era. Moreover, it is said that the reason he is ranked 36th on the Dao confirmation list is because he entered the chaotic wilderness. Otherwise, his ranking would be even higher. But the blade demon once stood at the pinnacle of the ancient era. It would not be an exaggeration to call him a supreme king. How did he lose to Ling Xiao? So what if he's a supreme king? In the era of great battles, prodigies compete. The ancients may not be able to defeat the current generation. I think many people who have yet to enter the Dao confirmation list have the strength to do so. In Yin Yang Emperor City, the trial takers discussed animatedly. They were all shocked by Ling Xiao's return. At this moment, Ling Xiao, who they were discussing, had already entered Yin Yang Emperor City. I relied on 720 origin Dao fruits to obtain a portion of the blade demon's saber intent. Although it's not complete, I can already use the Avicii Hell's God-burying saber. Ling Xiao praised inwardly. The forbidden saber was known as the saber of transcendence. It was unpredictable and powerful. It was even more powerful than an apex emperor technique. In the past epochs, there were many successors of the forbidden saber. Almost all of them were able to reach the end of the Eternal Emperor Road and reach the pinnacle to become supreme kings. Take the blade demon for example. Although his strength was terrifying, he relied on the Avicii Hell's God-burying saber to become a supreme king of an epoch. Ling Xiao had used the Blade Demon as a whetstone in his previous battle with the Blade Demon. He wanted to use the Blade Demon to confirm his guess for the past 100 years. As expected, when the 720 origin Dao fruits gathered together, the terrifying power unleashed was far beyond Ling Xiao's imagination. It could even block the forbidden saber. If the 3,000 origin Dao fruits gathered together, the 3,000 great Daos would strengthen my body. That would be the true supreme power, right? By then, I would be able to kill even a great emperor. Ling Xiao's eyes shone brightly as he thought to himself. After refining the saber intent of the forbidden saber, his cultivation had recovered to its original state. At this moment, Ling Xiao, Kuan Peng, Zhao Ritian, and Yu Yangchen had all arrived at the Yin-Yang Imperial City and entered a restaurant called the Pinnacle. The Pinnacle restaurant was named after the meaning of reaching the pinnacle. It was opened by the native living beings of the Yin-Yang Imperial City. There were many delicious dishes, fresh fruits, and rare treasures. They were all rare items on the Eternal Emperor Road. Ling Xiao, I didn't expect your strength to become so unfathomable after not seeing you for 100 years. Even that Blade Demon was defeated by you. I'm afraid that even if you face that absolute divine king, you still have the strength to fight, right? Zhao Ritian looked at Ling Xiao and sighed softly. There was indeed a sense of defeat in his heart. After chasing after Ling Xiao for so long, he realized that there was still a big gap between him and Ling Xiao. Brother Ritian, my cultivation is not as good as yours. However, my Dao is a little special. It's different from yours. Who is this supreme being Ju Wu? Ling Xiao smiled faintly and asked curiously. Supreme being Ju Wu. That's the peerless Sky Pride ranked 8th on the Dao affirmation list. He's also the owner of the Yin-Yang Imperial City. Legend has it that he's the 3 ultimate king. He once dominated the Eternal Emperor Road for 3 epochs. Yu Yangchen interrupted. Who made the Dao affirmation list? Ling Xiao was ranked 36th on the Dao affirmation list. It seems like the Dao affirmation list is not reliable at all. Kuan Peng held a roasted leg of lamb with one hand and drank wine from a crystal glass with the other hand as he said vaguely. The Dao affirmation list was made by some hidden experts of the 12 imperial cities. According to the performance of the Sky Prides on the Eternal Emperor Road, there are a total of 36 people on the list. However, most of them are monstrous geniuses of the ancient era. There are very few people in this epoch. For example, Ling Xiao is known as the Killer King. He's ranked 36th. Although the Dao affirmation list is not completely accurate, it can roughly tell the difference in strength between the Sky Prides. At least the top 12 experts on the Dao affirmation list are extremely powerful. Almost all of them are supreme kings. They're also the owners of the 12 imperial cities. Zhao Ritian said slowly and introduced the information about the Dao affirmation list. Ling Xiao, do you want to become the owner of the Yin-Yang Imperial City? As long as you defeat Supreme Being Ju Wu, you'll be the owner of the Yin-Yang Imperial City. Yu Yangchen suddenly said. His eyes were filled with anticipation. The owner of the Yin-Yang Imperial City? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with light. The 12 imperial cities did not have a guardian, but they had an owner. Chapter 3253. The 12 emperor cities don't have a guardian but they can have a master. Although the master of the 12 emperor cities can't use the power of Heaven's Way to suppress the enemy like the guardian, they can gain the recognition of Heaven's Way. They can comprehend the 3,000 great path origins and gain an extremely fast cultivation speed. Zhao Ritian explained to Ling Xiao. Comprehend the 3,000 great path origins. Ling Xiao's eyes lit up. If he could gain such benefits after becoming the master of the Emperor City, he was tempted. After all, Ling Xiao's path was different from others. He needed to comprehend the 3,000 great paths and gather the 3,000 great path origins before he could take the final step. However, it was extremely difficult to gather the 3,000 great path origins. Of the 720 origin Dao fruits in Ling Xiao's body, he had only condensed a few through his own comprehension. Most of the others were obtained from trial takers and powerful primordial beasts. Moreover, the stronger the Great Path origin, the harder it was to comprehend it. If Ling Xiao were to comprehend it alone, he wouldn't be able to gather the 3,000 Great Path origins even if he had an era. He had to admit that he was tempted by the benefits of becoming the master of the Emperor's city that Zhao Ritian mentioned. Moreover, I heard that once you become the master of the Emperor's city, you will be able to reach the end of the world easier than others when the Void Realm opens. Ling Xiao, you must seize this opportunity. Yi Liangchen said as if he wanted to see the world in chaos. Since Zhu Wu Supreme Being is a triple ultimate being, he must be very powerful, right? Do you really believe that Ling Xiao can defeat him? Kuan Peng asked curiously. How would we know if we don't try? Moreover, we are very confident in Ling Xiao. Moreover, Zhu Wu Supreme Being is very hostile towards the human race. I heard that his hands are stained with the blood of many human experts. He is friends with the Blade Demon. When the time comes, even if we don't look for him, he will come to us. Yi Liangchen said slowly. That's right. You must fight for the master of the Yin Yang Emperor city. A cold and indifferent voice was heard. A young man in black walked in from outside Jueshio Pavilion. Demon Lord? Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat. However, he still pretended to be surprised. The young man in black was Darkness Ling Xiao. It's me. Brother Ling Xiao, long time no see. Darkness Ling Xiao said calmly. You really do know each other. Zhao Ritian looked as if he had seen through all of them. Brother Devil Master, you've finally come out. If it wasn't for Ling Xiao, Zhao Ritian and I would have been in deep trouble. That Blade Demon is nothing, but fortunately, he is not Ling Xiao's match. Yap Liangchen said excitedly. Darkness Ling Xiao gestured for everyone to sit down. Similarly, he sat opposite Ling Xiao. His eyes were filled with a cruel and callous expression. A baleful aura emanated from his body. It was bone-chilling. His cultivation was actually slightly higher than Ling Xiao, and he'd already attained the 8th level of the Imperial Monarch realm. I've gained something from my breakthrough this time, so I've been delayed. But don't worry, that saber demon's life is mine. Dark Ling Xiao sneered. Brother Devil Master, did you just say that you want me to fight for the Imperial City Lord position? Ling Xiao said as he looked at the darkness. This was the first time he met Darkness Ling Xiao in a few hundred years after he created the Darkness Doppelganger. Even though he knew that the doppelganger in front of him was also himself, Ling Xiao still had a strange feeling in his heart. Although Darkness Ling Xiao and Ling Xiao were of the same origin, and their primordial spirits were formed by half of Ling Xiao's primordial spirit, it seemed like Darkness Ling Xiao had gained some self-consciousness. It was as if there were some secrets on Darkness Ling Xiao that even Ling Xiao did not know about. He did not know if this change was good or bad, but it seemed like everything was still under control. That's right. You've killed the guardians of the 4 great imperial cities, so your primordial spirit should have condensed the Heaven Path Pearl, right? It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call you the son of the heavens. The Heaven Path Pearl is an unbearable temptation to Divine King Zhu Wu. Even if you don't look for him, he'll come to you for the Heaven Path Pearl. Darkness Ling Xiao nodded and said. Of course, he had already communicated with Ling Xiao in the depths of their primordial spirits. Darkness Ling Xiao was only saying this for Zhao Ritian and the others to hear. Brother Demon Lord is right. Ling Xiao, with the Heaven Path Pearl in the hands of Divine King Zhu Wu, he'll be able to comprehend the origin of the heavens even faster. He'll accumulate more foundation and become stronger. Zhao Ritian also nodded and said. It seems like there will be a battle between Divine King Zhu Wu and I. Ling Xiao smiled faintly as a bright light flashed in his eyes. Just as Ling Xiao, Zhao Ritian and the others were conversing in Jueshio Pavilion, Blade Demon arrived at the depths of Yin Yang Imperial City. There was a huge mansion here, known as the Divine King Mansion. It was as magnificent as a palace, ancient and majestic. It was the residence of the Divine King Zhu Wu, the master of Yin Yang Imperial City. In the center of the Divine King mansion, there was a towering pagoda. It was like a sharp sword that pierced through the heavens. It was tens of thousands of feet tall. This was the heaven-reaching pagoda, where Divine King Ju Wu cultivated in seclusion. At the peak of the heaven-reaching pagoda, there was a sea of chaotic clouds. Auspicious vapors rose and thousands of auspicious lights shone. Divine chains of order intertwined, forming a mysterious ocean. A middle-aged man in a purple dragon robe sat cross-legged in the sea of chaotic clouds. His face was cold and he exuded an aura of death and nothingness. His glabella shone brightly as he breathed in and out chaos. Divine chains of order connected his glabella to his sea of consciousness. It was as though they were conveying the mysteries of heaven and earth. Blade Demon came to the peak of the heaven-reaching pagoda. When he saw the back of the middle-aged man in a purple robe in the sea of chaotic clouds, his eyes were filled with envy. This was the fortune of the master of the imperial city. The middle-aged man in a purple robe was naturally Divine King Ju Wu. Blade Demon, you're here. A faint voice reverberated in the sea of chaotic clouds. Divine King, you should know why I'm here, right? Blade Demon said slowly with a hoarse voice. There are cracks in your Dao heart. Is Ling Shao really that strong? Divine King Ju Wu exclaimed softly. He turned around slowly with a tinge of surprise in his eyes. As the master of the Yin-Yang Imperial City, he would naturally be informed of what happened in Purple Withered Forest. He has the Avicii Hell's Heaven-Burying Blade, the most mysterious and strongest of the 4 forbidden blades. Blade Demon looked at Divine King Ju Wu and said. No wonder. The heart-severing blade is indeed unstoppable. However, Ling Shao must be extremely strong. As long as he doesn't provoke me, I won't find trouble with him. I'm afraid you found the wrong person to see me. Divine King Ju Wu said plainly. Really? Is Divine King not interested in the Heaven Path Pearl? Blade Demon said with a faint smile. Heaven Path Pearl? That requires a lot of Heaven Path fate. Although Ling Shao killed the 4 Imperial City Guardians, he might not have the Heaven Path Pearl in his body, right? Divine King Ju Wu said after a moment of silence. Divine King, you're lying to yourself. You know better than me how much Heaven Path fate the Imperial City Guardians have. He must have the Heaven Path Pearl in his body, and there must be a reason why you have to kill him. The Blade Demon sneered. What reason? He has at least 300 Origin Dao fruits in his body, and all of them are perfect. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to block my Avicii Hell's Heaven-Burying Blade unscathed. What? Divine King Ju Wu shot to his feet. He's also a robber. As if sensing the problem in his words, Divine King Ju Wu said flatly, he can't be a robber. But why would he have so many perfect Origin Dao fruits in his body? You're right. He really isn't a robber. His aura is different from yours. Otherwise, I would have sensed it. Blade Demon glanced at Divine King Ju Wu with a faint smile, then changed the subject. There are only 2 possibilities as to why he has so many perfect Origin Dao fruits in his body. The first is that he has the Chaos Treasure Jade Disc of Fortune in his body, and the second is that he's chosen that path. Which path? Divine King Ju Wu's eyes flashed sharply. He nodded, then shook his head. That's not very likely. That path has long since been proven to be a dead end. Many people have failed. But if he has the Jade Disc of Fortune in his body, it's not impossible. No matter which possibility it is, he still has a large number of perfect Origin Dao fruits in his body. There's no way he can escape that. Are you really not tempted? Blade Demon smiled faintly. All right. Ling Zhao's life is mine. What do you want now, Blade Demon? Divine King Ju Wu didn't hesitate in the slightest, his gaze fierce and domineering. Of course I want the forbidden blade in his body. Divine King, Ling Zhao's strength cannot be underestimated. To ensure that nothing goes wrong, it's best if we work together. When the time comes, I only want the forbidden blade. Everything else is yours. Blade Demon looked deeply at Divine King Ju Wu. Alright. There's another reason you called me here, isn't there? If you want your Tao heart to recover quickly, you need to borrow the power of the heavenly Tao. Divine King Ju Wu glanced at Blade Demon. Divine King, you're wise. The Blade Demon smiled calmly, not concealing his purpose. Fine. I'll help you. I hope that Ling Xiao won't disappoint me. Divine King Ju Wu nodded. He knew that Ling Xiao's strength was unparalleled if he could split Blade Demon's Tao heart with a single slash. Just him alone wasn't enough. With Blade Demon around, if the two of them worked together, they would definitely be able to kill Ling Xiao. Divine King Ju Wu began to heal Blade Demon in the sky connecting tower. Powerful figures flew out from the Deity King's mansion and headed towards where Ling Xiao, Xiao Ritian, and the rest were. Of course, their goal wasn't to kill Ling Xiao, but to monitor his every move. In Yin-Yang Emperor City, Ling Xiao was walking on the streets. The surrounding trial takers were looking at him with respect and awe. News of the battle in Purple Withered Forest spread to Yin-Yang Imperial City. Everyone had a deep understanding of Ling Xiao's strength, so no one dared to underestimate him anymore. At the same time, Ling Xiao could vaguely sense that several figures were spying on him. Although their auras were concealed, he still detected them. Are they Blade Demon's men, or Divine King Ju Wu's men? Ling Xiao's heart skipped a beat. However, he didn't show it on his face. Those people were just spying on him. Since he knew that he would have to fight Blade Demon and Divine King Ju Wu, Ling Xiao didn't care about being followed. Heaven Dao Pavilion. This was the most prosperous commercial building in Yin-Yang Imperial City. It was opened by a powerful native. That native's strength was unfathomable. It was said that he wasn't weaker than the experts on the Dao confirmation list. Therefore, many trial takers were willing to come here to buy treasures. It was called Heaven Dao Pavilion because the native behind it was said to be related to the Imperial City's guardian. Ling Xiao had come to the Heaven Dao Pavilion to purchase some Origin Dao fruits. As the number of perfected Origin Dao fruits in his body increased, it became harder and harder to obtain rare Origin Dao fruits. Ling Xiao only wanted to try his luck. In order to avoid trouble, Ling Xiao even concealed his aura before entering Heaven Dao Pavilion. He concealed some of his features so that no one could tell his true identity. After all, he was now very famous in Yin-Yang Imperial City. His reputation was so great that it was comparable to Divine King Ju Wu's. Esteemed guest, may I know what you're looking for? An old man with white hair and a beard approached Ling Xiao. His eyes shone brightly when he saw Ling Xiao. Old man, I'd like to buy some perfected Origin Dao fruits. Do you have any? Ling Xiao cupped his fists and smiled at the old man. Perfected Origin Dao fruits. Yes, I do. However, could it be that you wish to take a second or even a third path after breaking through to the Imperial Emperor realm? The old man sized Ling Xiao up and asked curiously. That's right. Ling Xiao nodded and said. I see. May I know what kind of Origin Dao fruit you're looking for? The old man asked. I haven't thought about it yet. Why don't you show me around? If I'm satisfied with the Origin Dao fruit, I'll buy it. Ling Xiao smiled. He had already thought of an excuse. Esteemed guest, please follow me. The old man's status in the Heaven Dao Pavilion was obviously not low. He brought Ling Xiao directly to a room on the second floor. Then, he gestured for a few beautiful maids to bring in more than 10 white jade treasure boxes. There are a total of 86 perfected Origin Dao fruits here. Esteemed guest, take a look. Are there any that you're satisfied with? The old man waved his hand and the white jade treasure boxes were opened. Among them, the Origin Dao fruits emitted a dazzling and mysterious light. Strands of Dao energy permeated the air, filling the entire room with treasure light. It was quite extraordinary. Ling Xiao was also looking forward to it. Heaven Dao Pavilion was indeed extraordinary. They actually took out 86 perfected origin Tao fruits at once. However, after Ling Xiao took a closer look, he realized that more than half of the 86 origin Tao fruits were of the 5 elements. They were the most common ones. The rest were the same as the origin Tao fruits in Ling Xiao's body. There were no origin Tao fruits that he needed. "Sir, is that all you have? Although these origin Tao fruits are perfected, they're too common." Ling Xiao sighed softly. As if he saw the disappointment in Ling Xiao's eyes, a gleam of light flashed through the old man's eyes. He suddenly smiled. "Esteemed guest, I do have some perfect origin Tao fruits, but they were all found in ruins from a few epochs ago. Most of them have been damaged. Do you want to take a look? Found in ruins a few eras ago. Then I'd like to broaden my horizons." Ling Xiao suddenly thought of something and smiled. Chapter 3254. An origin source Tao fruit from a few epochs ago could be preserved until now. Even if it had suffered some damage, it was still an incredible treasure. Moreover, Ling Xiao understood that among the 3,000 great Taos, the great Tao origins that the prodigies of this epoch cultivated were mostly similar. Some of the rarer great Tao origins were even close to being lost. If he wanted to find such a perfect origin source Tao fruit, he would have to find it in some ancient ruins. Human strength was limited, but the power of heaven and earth was endless. For example, it was almost impossible for Ling Xiao to comprehend all 3,000 origins of the great Tao. He had the 108 heavenly dipper earthly fiend's secret arts and 108 related origin source Tao fruits in his body. As long as he spent some time, he would be able to comprehend them to perfection. However, some of the more ancient great Tao origins might repel Ling Xiao and have no affinity with him. Naturally, it was impossible for him to comprehend them. In that case, he would have to rely on the origin source Tao fruit. The origin source Tao fruit was like a seed, and a perfect origin source Tao fruit contained a complete great Tao origin. It could allow Ling Xiao to master it even faster. Therefore, the origin source Tao fruit in the ancient ruins that the old man mentioned immediately piqued Ling Xiao's interest. "Esteemed guest, please take a look." The old man smiled and waved his sleeve. Immediately, a dazzling light bloomed and 10 white jade treasure boxes appeared. The 10 white jade treasure boxes looked very ancient and were filled with the vicissitudes of time. After opening them, each white jade treasure box contained 10 origin source Tao fruits. There were a total of 100 origin source Tao fruits. However, the 100 origin source Tao fruits looked like shriveled seeds. They didn't have any Taoist ripples and were very inconspicuous. Ling Xiao's body shook. He immediately waved his hand and a white jade treasure box landed in his palm. He carefully inspected it. It was indeed a perfect origin source Tao fruit. Moreover, it contained a trace of extremely pure Taoist ripples. However, it seemed like countless years had caused the origin source Tao fruit to wither and be damaged. Most importantly, none of these 100 origin source Tao fruits overlapped with the 720 origin source Tao fruits in Ling Xiao's body. Ling Xiao's eyes lit up. With these 100 origin source Tao fruits, his cultivation might be able to break through to the 8th heaven of the Imperial Lord Realm. Esteemed guest. Even though these 100 quintessence Tao fruits have been damaged, it's not irreversible. As long as they're nourished by the karmic luck of the heavenly Tao, they'll be able to recover. The old man smiled as if he had seen through Ling Xiao's hesitation. Nurtured by the providence of the heavenly Tao. Ling Xiao nodded. These were all origin Tao fruits, the embodiment of the origin of the great Tao. The fate of the heavenly Tao was like the water of life to the origin Tao fruits. It could indeed revive them. However, the heavenly Tao karmic luck was even rarer than the quintessence Tao fruit. Most people probably wouldn't use the heavenly Tao karmic luck to nourish the quintessence Tao fruit. You saw through my identity? Ling Xiao looked deeply at the old man and said calmly. The old man had taken out 100 origin Tao fruits from the primordial ruins and said that they could be nurtured with the heavenly Tao providence. He must have seen that Ling Xiao had the heavenly Tao providence. If Ling Xiao still didn't know that the old man had seen through his identity, then he would be a fool. That's right, Your Excellency Ling Xiao. I am Zhou Yuan, the leader of the Heaven Dao Pavilion. I have a good friend who is the guardian of Jinwu Emperor City. That's why I learned about your aura imprint from him. The white-haired old man stood up and cupped his fists at Ling Xiao with a smile. Pavilion Master Zhou, what do you want from me by taking out these origin Dao fruits? Ling Xiao didn't move and asked calmly. He didn't believe that Zhou Yuan didn't have any other motives. These 100 origin Dao fruits from the primordial ruins were considered supreme treasures no matter where they were placed. Especially for robbers, it was a fatal temptation. Your Excellency Ling Xiao, you should have seen that my cultivation is only at the 7th heaven of the Imperial Emperor realm. However, a month ago, my cultivation was at the 9th heaven of the Imperial Emperor realm. And all of this was given to me by the invincible Divine King. Zhou Yuan gritted his teeth as he spoke. His eyes were filled with hatred. As he explained, Ling Xiao gradually came to an understanding. As it turned out, Zhou Yuan had discovered an ancient ruin a month ago. It seemed to be the ruins of a holy land from countless epochs ago, and he had discovered quite a few treasures there. However, the invincible Divine King suddenly barged in. Not only did he steal a large number of treasures, but he also severely injured Zhou Yuan and destroyed his Dao foundation, causing Zhou Yuan's cultivation to drop. Fortunately, Zhou Yuan had a life-saving trump card. Otherwise, he would have died in the primordial ruins. Furthermore, Zhou Yuan had a secret technique to change his aura. Although the invincible Divine King severely injured him, he didn't know his true identity. Therefore, even if he returned to Yin-Yang Emperor City, the invincible Divine King wouldn't be able to find him. However, because of this, Zhou Yuan hated the invincible Divine King to the core. However, Ling Xiao had heard too many cases of people killing others to steal their treasures. His expression didn't change at all. I'm willing to give these 100 origin Dao fruits to Your Excellency Ling Xiao for free. I only hope that you can avenge me and kill the invincible Divine King. Zhou Yuan bowed deeply to Ling Xiao and said sincerely. Ling Xiao glanced at Zhou Yuan and said indifferently, what makes you think that I can kill the invincible Divine King? Moreover, even if I could do it, why should I help you? You can't be thinking that a mere 100 origin Dao fruits can buy the life of a prodigy ranked 8th on the Dao validation list, right? Zhou Yuan suddenly raised his head and hurriedly said, Your Excellency Ling Xiao, the news of you killing the sword demon in a single strike in Purple Withered Forest has already spread throughout the 12 emperor cities. Although the invincible Divine King is ranked 8th on the Dao validation list, I believe that you can definitely kill him. Most importantly, you will definitely kill him. I obtained these 10 white jade boxes in the primordial ruins, but there are still 90 white jade boxes in the invincible Divine King's hands. There are 900 origin Dao fruits in there. When he saw that Ling Xiao didn't immediately refuse, he knew that there was hope. Therefore, he spared no effort in persuading him and revealed a secret that shocked Ling Xiao. 900 origin Dao fruits. Ling Xiao's entire body shook. He couldn't remain calm. In addition to the 100 origin Dao fruits, that was a total of 1,000 origin Dao fruits. 1,000 origin Dao fruits found in the primordial ruins, and all of them were of the perfect grade. How much could they raise Ling Xiao's cultivation? At this moment, Ling Xiao decided that he had to obtain these 1,000 origin Dao fruits no matter what. Your Excellency Ling Xiao, I wouldn't dare lie to you. As long as you kill the invincible Divine King, you'll have 1,000 origin Dao fruits in your hands. Zhou Yuan's attitude became even more humble. He even changed the way he addressed Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao looked deeply at Zhou Yuan and did not say a word. After a while, he stood up and put away the 10 white jade boxes. I'll accept this deal. Ling Xiao said, then turned and left the Heaven Dao Pavilion. Zhou Yuan instantly felt relieved when he saw Ling Xiao's departing figure. A trace of anticipation appeared in his eyes. Grandpa, can he really kill the invincible Divine King? There was a flash of light in the void, and a beautiful lady in a purple dress appeared in front of Zhou Yuan. There was a trace of deep worry in her eyes. Before I saw him, I couldn't be sure. But after seeing him, I'm sure that Ling Xiao is indeed unfathomable. Even if he can't kill the invincible Divine King, he can severely injure him. Then, our Zhou family will have hope. Zhou Yuan sighed softly. I hope he can really do it. Otherwise, it'll be a disaster for our Zhou family. The woman in purple bit her lips and said with a complicated expression. Interesting. He wants to use me to kill the invincible Divine King. I really want to see what's hidden behind the Heaven Dao Pavilion. Below the Heaven Dao Pavilion, Ling Xiao thought to himself as he looked deeply at the Heaven Dao Pavilion. He didn't think that Zhou Yuan wanted him to kill the invincible Divine King for revenge. There must be other reasons behind it. However, since Zhou Yuan didn't want to talk about it, he didn't want to probe further. No matter what, these 100 origin Dao fruits were indeed rare treasures to Ling Xiao. That Heaven Dao pearl came in handy, but I don't know if it's enough to nourish these 100 origin Dao fruits. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with anticipation. He turned and walked toward the Jueshu Pavilion. He had already booked a side residence in the Jueshu Pavilion. Ling Xiao, Zhao Ritian, and the rest were resting in the side residence. Ling Xiao returned to the side residence and took out the 100 origin Dao fruits. 100 origin Dao fruits were like 100 seeds. Although there was a faint presence of Dao within them, they looked extremely shriveled and ordinary. Only the intertwining patterns on them showed some of their extraordinariness. Ling Xiao's glabella shone brightly. It was as if a devouring vortex had appeared and swallowed the 100 origin Dao fruits into his consciousness. The Heaven Dao pearl in Ling Xiao's consciousness shone brightly. It was intertwined with mysterious divine chains of order and emitted an ethereal and mysterious energy wave. With a thought from Ling Xiao, the sky path pearl flew towards the 100 Dao fruits in an instant. Let's hope this Heaven Dao pearl can nurture all 100 origin Dao fruits. Ling Xiao's heart was filled with anticipation. Even though the Heaven Dao pearl was incredibly expensive, Ling Xiao didn't feel any heartache over it. Nurturing the 100 origin Dao fruits would be the greatest reward. The 100 origin Dao fruits buzzed as if they could sense the Heaven Dao pearl's power. Wisps of mysterious karmic luck emerged from the Heaven Dao pearl and slowly merged with the origin Dao fruits. The extremely shriveled essence Dao fruit actually began to emit a faint light. It really works. Ling Xiao thought. Without any hesitation, he activated the vast karmic luck in the Heaven Dao pearl and poured it into the origin Dao fruits to nourish the damaged ones. The 100 origin Dao fruits began to emit dazzling light, and wisps of Daoist rhymes began to spread out. Ling Xiao's indestructible primordial spirit shone brilliantly as he sat cross-legged in the boundless void. The 720 origin Dao fruits around him trembled slightly and intertwined with the mysterious great Dao origin power. At that moment, the 100 origin Dao fruits also emitted a faint Dao aura that slowly flowed into Ling Xiao's indestructible primordial spirit. Ling Xiao's indestructible primordial spirit also began to comprehend the great Dao origin within the 100 origin Dao fruits. After Ling Xiao went into seclusion, Yin-Yang Emperor City appeared very calm on the surface despite the turbulent undercurrents. News of Ling Xiao's appearance in Yin-Yang Emperor City also began to spread throughout the 12 Emperor cities. Although the 12 Emperor cities weren't close to each other and it wasn't easy to travel to other Emperor cities, it wasn't a problem for the top prodigies. The prodigy trial takers who entered the 12 Emperor cities were all waiting for the opening of the realm of nothingness. Although many prodigies fought from time to time, they all maintained a certain level of restraint before entering the realm of nothingness. Ling Xiao's return from the primal chaos wilderness alarmed some of his old friends. Reincarnation Emperor City. Ling Xiao is in Yin-Yang Emperor City. Ha ha ha. I knew it. That guy is very lucky. He definitely won't die. The old goat and the white dragon horse were extremely excited. Their mouths were almost crooked from laughing, and the joy in their eyes couldn't be concealed. Although they usually talked nonsense, they were actually very worried about Ling Xiao. When they heard that Ling Xiao had returned from the chaotic wilderness, they immediately relaxed. Not only did Ling Xiao return, but he also defeated the 18th ranked Blade Demon outside Yin Yang Emperor City. I think his true strength is at least in the top 10 of the Dao affirmation list. Daoist Wu Yang smiled faintly. Dao affirmation list? What kind of list is that? Even Senior Dugu and I aren't in it. How dare you call it the Dao affirmation list? Let's hurry to Yin Yang Emperor City and find Ling Xiao. The old goat spat and said. His eyes were filled with anticipation. All right. When Senior Dugu comes out of seclusion, we'll go find Ling Xiao. Daoist Wu Yang nodded with a smile. This time, we brothers will sweep through Yin Yang Emperor City. When Ling Xiao becomes the city lord, we'll kill our way into the realm of nothingness. Wouldn't that be great? The white dragon horse was also filled with anticipation. Life-Death Emperor City. Ba Dao and Ji Feishuan had already entered Life-Death Emperor City and heard about Ling Xiao's return. Big brother is in Yin Yang Emperor City. Your Majesty, I'm going to look for him. Ba Dao looked at Ji Feishuan seriously. Go ahead. However, I'm afraid I won't be able to go to Yin Yang Emperor City for the time being. I'll be in seclusion for a period of time. When I come out, I'm going to test the strength of the city lord. Ji Feishuan said with a faint smile. Her white robe was as beautiful as snow. After entering Life-Death Emperor City, her cultivation aura had become even more unfathomable. Even Ba Dao, who was an 8th heavenly emperor, felt his heart palpitate. Although the empress rarely fought and wasn't even listed on the Dao affirmation list, Ba Dao knew that Ji Feishuan's strength wasn't any weaker than the city lord. It wouldn't be difficult for Ji Feishuan to become the city lord. All right. Your Majesty, we'll meet again in the realm of nothingness. Ba Dao cupped his fists at Ji Feishuan. See you in the realm of nothingness. Ji Feishuan smiled faintly and exuded a majestic aura of vitality. She turned around and disappeared into the void. Chaos Emperor City. Interesting. That Ling Xiao actually walked out of the chaos wilderness. A faint voice sounded. A mysterious and extraordinary young man shrouded in immortal light walked out of a palace. Around him, strange scenes of the birth and death of worlds seemed to appear. Your Majesty, 9th Prince, you're already ranked 2nd on the Dao affirmation list. Even the person ranked 1st on the Dao affirmation list isn't your match. What's Ling Xiao to you? Is he worthy of your attention? A prodigy trial taker with a valiant figure bowed deeply to the young man, his face full of fanatical adoration. The 9th Prince of the Immortal Tribe, the peerless Sky Pride ranked 2nd on the Dao affirmation list. He was known as an invincible peerless genius and was the strongest expert of this epoch. He had countless followers, including Sky Prides on the Dao affirmation list. The 9th Prince's followers all believed that even though he was ranked 2nd on the Dao affirmation list, it wasn't impossible for him to defeat the person ranked 1st on the Dao affirmation list. You don't understand. Ling Xiao isn't an ordinary person. The city lord of the Yin Yang Emperor City is Zhu Wushan Wang, right? I'm afraid he's going to kick an iron plate this time. The 9th Prince smiled faintly. Zhu Wushan Wang is ranked 8th on the Dao affirmation list. Could it be that he can't defeat Ling Xiao? The surrounding Sky Prides were extremely shocked. Zhu Wushan Wang is going to die soon. I'm very curious. How far can Ling Xiao go? I hope he won't disappoint me. The 9th Prince said softly. His gaze seemed to pierce through the layers of chaos space and landed on Ling Xiao, who was cultivating in seclusion in the Yin Yang Emperor City. His eyes were filled with anticipation. Chapter 3255. Divine King, I've investigated thoroughly. The person you injured that day is Zhou Yuan, the leader of the Heaven Dao Pavilion. On the heaven-reaching tower, a prodigy in pure gold armor bowed to Divine King Zhu Wu. Zhou Yuan. You're courting death. Ye Chen, make a trip and capture Zhou Yuan. Especially those 10 white jade boxes, you must bring them back for this king. Divine King Zhu Wu's cold and murderous voice rang out. Yi Chen was his follower. Although he wasn't on the Tao confirmation list, he had the cultivation of a peerless emperor. He was extremely powerful, and dealing with a severely injured Zhou Yuan was a piece of cake. However, Yi Qin hesitated for a moment and didn't immediately accept the order. What? Is there anything else? Divine King Zhu Wu asked. Divine King, Zhou Yuan is extremely vigilant. He has already escaped from Yin-Yang Imperial City. Before he escaped, he sold the 10 white jade treasure boxes to Ling Xiao. Yi Qin reported. What? Divine King Zhu Wu's voice suddenly turned cold, and a terrifying murderous aura erupted from him. How dare you? Is Zhou Yuan trying to drive a tiger to kill a wolf? You're courting death. I'll deal with him after I kill Ling Xiao. Divine King Zhu Wu stood up in the sea of chaotic clouds. A terrifying aura rose around him, causing a storm in the sea of chaotic clouds around him. His eyes landed on Yi Qin. They were like divine lamps that shone with a blazing light, causing Yi Qin to feel extremely pressured. Gather the 10 divine lords and follow me to kill Ling Xiao. Divine King Zhu Wu said coldly. Yes. Yi Qin's body trembled, and he immediately accepted the order respectfully. Was it finally coming? His heart was filled with anticipation. Ever since Ling Xiao entered Yin-Yang Imperial City, everyone knew that there would be a battle between Ling Xiao and Divine King Zhu Wu. Although most people thought that Ling Xiao's chances of winning were extremely small, it didn't stop them from wanting to witness this shocking battle. A battle between two peerless prodigies on the Tao confirmation list was definitely a rare grand event in the 12 imperial cities. It was worthy of everyone's anticipation. Divine King, aren't you being too impulsive? Blade Demon's voice came from the depths of chaos behind him. Impulse? You don't even know what's inside those 10 white jade treasure boxes. Who knows, Ling Xiao might have already refined them. I have to kill Ling Xiao as soon as possible. Otherwise, if things go awry, even I might not be able to do anything to him. Saber Demon, how is your Tao heart recovering? God King Zhu Wu's eyes stared into the depths of the void as he spoke slowly. I'm fine now. Since the deity king had said so, there was no time to lose. I will hide in the dark and assist the divine king in killing Ling Xiao at any time. The Blade Demon nodded. Don't worry, it's not just you this time. The City Lord of Celestial Battling City will also come, and I've arranged other things. This time, Ling Xiao must die. God King Zhu Wu coldly said. With that, he stepped into the void and left the top of the Tower of Babel. Whoosh! 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 Figures with powerful presences soared into the sky from the God King's estate, heading for the Jueshio Pavilion. They moved as fast as lightning, radiating with terrifying pulses of presence without hiding it at all. Their leader was God King Zhu Wu. He wore a purple gold dragon robe and had a valiant figure. He was surrounded by boundless chaotic light, exuding a vast heavenly aura. His face was solemn and dignified. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he looked in the direction of the Jueshio Pavilion. In an instant, they arrived in the sky above Jueshio Pavilion and surrounded the courtyard where Ling Xiao and the others resided. What? It's God King Zhu Wu's aura. Someone exclaimed in surprise. The actions of the God King's estate instantly alarmed many people in the Yin-Yang Emperor City. Seeing God King Zhu Wu personally leading the experts of the God King's estate towards the Jueshio Pavilion, everyone seemed to have understood something. Is God King Zhu Wu finally going to attack Ling Xiao? Someone guessed. Looks like Ling Xiao's strength has indeed made God King Zhu Wu unable to sit still. I originally thought that God King Zhu Wu would wait for Ling Xiao to personally challenge him. I never thought that God King Zhu Wu would make the first move. In Purple Withered Forest, Ling Xiao defeated Blade Demon with a single slash. The shocking combat strength that he displayed is probably comparable to God King Zhu Wu. Will Ling Xiao be able to withstand this? Ever since God King Zhu Wu became the lord of the Yin-Yang Emperor City, he was able to comprehend the great Tao origin. His strength has become unfathomable and cannot be measured by common sense. That's right. I think Ling Xiao is most likely doomed. Everyone was secretly guessing. At the same time, they were incomparably excited and full of anticipation. This battle was incomparably crucial as it would determine the position of the Lord of the Yin-Yang Emperor City. God King Ju Wu was an ancient sky pride and a three-way king. He had reached the pinnacle of 3 eras and his strength was unfathomable. On the other hand, Ling Xiao was the chosen one of this era. On the Eternal Emperor Road, he was a dazzling existence who had killed the 4 great Emperor City guards. The clash between these two peerless sky prides would definitely be extremely exciting. In the Yin-Yang Emperor City, everyone's attention was on the Jueshio Pavilion. In the sky above the courtyard of the Jueshio Pavilion, God King Ju Wu was sitting on a huge dragon throne in the sky. His aura was monstrous, majestic and mysterious. As he blinked, terrifying killing intent filled the air. Behind him, there were 10 Sur gods. The auras of the 10 Sur gods were extremely terrifying. All of them had reached the 9th heaven of Imperial Emperor realm, peerless Imperial Emperors. No one had expected God King Ju Wu to have 10 peerless Imperial Emperors under him. Other than the 10 peerless Imperial Emperors, there were over 100 high-level Imperial Emperors. Each of their auras were as deep as the sea. They stood in the sky and set up a huge battle formation, surrounding the courtyard below. Such a powerful and terrifying force was enough to annihilate everything. The numerous trial takers in the surroundings were all inwardly shocked. Among the 10 Sur gods, there were many reputable Sky Pride trial takers. No one had expected them to be subdued by God King Ju Wu and become God King Ju Wu's followers. After seeing the 10 Sur gods, the crowd increasingly felt that Ling Xiao was most likely going to die in this battle. Who are you? How dare you act so presumptuously in Lord Wang's courtyard? Are you guys too arrogant? Or is it because Lord Wang is too weak to wield his saber? An arrogant voice could be heard. From the courtyard, an ancient and mysterious Kuan Peng dashed out. He gave out a ferocious aura and there seemed to be yin and yang Dao rhymes intertwining around him. He stared at God King Ju Wu and the others arrogantly and sneered. Then, Darkness Ling Xiao, Zhao Ritian and Yu Yangchen came out too. Other than Ling Xiao who was still in seclusion, the rest of them came out. When they saw God King Ju Wu in the void, they couldn't help but be shocked. Then, they understood what was going on. God King Ju Wu couldn't sit still anymore. However, they had never expected God King Ju Wu to come so quickly. Ling Xiao had been in seclusion for less than a month. Originally, they were still planning how to fight God King Ju Wu after Ling Xiao came out of seclusion and take over the position of the Master of Yin-Yang Emperor City. They had never expected God King Ju Wu to come straight to their doorstep. Kuan Peng regretted his words the moment he finished speaking. He had never expected God King Ju Wu to come for him. Therefore, even though he was arrogant, his heart was beating fast. Especially when he saw the 10 divine emperors behind God King Ju Wu. They were like 10 dazzling suns. All of them were exuding the aura of divine emperors. Kuan Peng's legs almost turned to jelly. Was this the might of the number 8 on the Tao affirmation board, the 3 ultimate monarch, an ancient sky pride? It was indeed extraordinary. Tell Ling Xiao to come out and accept his death. God King Ju Wu's voice was like thunder. His voice was indifferent. His cold eyes landed on Kuan Peng and the others. They couldn't help but feel their bodies sink. It was as if they were being stared at by some ancient beast. They felt immense pressure. Among them, Darkness Ling Xiao and Zhao Ritian had the highest cultivation. However, they were only at the 8th heaven of the Imperial Emperor realm. As for Kuan Peng and Yu Yangchen, they were only at the 7th heaven of the Imperial Emperor realm. Faced with 11 peerless sovereign emperors and over 100 high-level sovereign emperors, it was natural for him to feel immense pressure. Among them, God King Ju Wu was the most important. Darkness Ling Xiao and Zhao Ritian's eyes were a little solemn. They felt an immense threat from God King Ju Wu. Who the hell are you? Zhao Ritian sneered. He stared at God King Ju Wu from the corner of his eyes. He was very unhappy. Although he knew that the person in front of him was God King Ju Wu, he still asked the obvious. He, Zhao Ritian, had killed Chu Kuang and almost fought with the Blade Demon. He believed that his strength was not weaker than the sky prides on the Tao affirmation board. However, God King Ju Wu only had eyes for Ling Xiao. It was as if they were air. Blatant disregard. God King Ju Wu. If you want to see Ling Xiao, you'll have to get through me first. Darkness, Ling Xiao said coldly. His eyes were cold and cruel. They were filled with powerful battle intent. Demonic chi rose from his body, revealing a chaotic color. He looked mysterious and unfathomable, making his entire body exude an ancient demonic might. Chaos Demon Tribe? I didn't expect there to be no Chaos Demon Tribe in this generation. However, your cultivation is too weak. You're no match for me. God King Ju Wu said softly. He looked at Darkness Ling Xiao seriously and recognized the aura of the Chaos Demon Tribe. How would you know if we don't fight? Darkness Ling Xiao sneered. The battle intent in his eyes was getting stronger. Me too. God King Ju Wu, I think you've reached the end of your days as the city lord of Yin Yang Emperor City. Let me teach you how to behave. Zhao Ritian sneered as he took a step forward. The golden glow around his body was dazzling, and a mighty battle intent spread out from him. They felt pressure and threat from God King Ju Wu. However, the more it was so, the more battle intent in their hearts burned. Chaos Demon Tribe. The son of the Heavenly Emperor. The two of you are quite strong. However, you're not worthy to fight with me. 10 great monarchs, play with them. God King Ju Wu said indifferently. 2 dazzling beams of light shot out from his eyes. They pierced through the void and shot towards where Ling Xiao was cultivating in seclusion. He knew that Ling Xiao was probably refining the origin Dao fruit in the 10 white jade treasure boxes. Those were his treasures. He couldn't let them fall into Ling Xiao's hands. Therefore, he didn't waste any more words and brazenly attacked. You're courting death. How dare you? Darkness Ling Xiao and Zhao Ritian were furious. They were ignored by God King Ju Wu. Moreover, God King Ju Wu wanted to attack Ling Xiao, who was cultivating in seclusion right in front of them. They couldn't take it anymore. Rumble. Terrifying auras erupted from their bodies. One of them had a monstrous demonic aura and chaotic demonic light that engulfed everything. The other had a dazzling golden light and heavenly emperor aura that covered the sky. Darkness Ling Xiao and Zhao Ritian threw out a punch at God King Ju Wu at the same time. Your opponents are us. Yi Chen of the 10 Great Monarchs said coldly. He was surrounded by a murderous aura. The 10 Great Monarchs attacked immediately and stood in front of Darkness Ling Xiao and Zhao Ritian. Even Kun Peng and Yu Yangchen were affected by the attacks of the 10 Great Monarchs. Damn it! Do you really think that we are easy to bully? Kill! Flames of fury were burning in Kun Peng and Yu Yangchen's eyes. They were surrounded by murderous aura and attacked immediately. Although they were only at the 7th heaven of Emperor Realm, the two of them were extremely talented. Their fighting power was heaven-defying and they weren't weaker than a peerless emperor. The bloodline in Kun Peng's body had completely reverted to its ancestor. Not only did it understand the Tao of Yin and Yang, but it could also swallow the heavens and the earth. When it opened its mouth to swallow, it was as though an extremely vast world had descended and it wanted to swallow all living things. Yi Liangchen's body was engraved with the Zhou Tian star formation. As his cultivation became stronger, its power became more terrifying. When the Zhou Tian star formation exploded, it was like a vast starry sky that could cover everything. Especially when Yi Liangchen had the body of bad luck. Anyone who dared to go against him would end up in bad luck. Although the 10 Great Monarchs had the advantage in numbers and they were the 10 peerless Emperor Realm experts, they seemed to have the upper hand. They had surrounded Darkness Ling Xiao, Zhao Ritian, Kuan Peng, and Yu Yangchen. However, it was still unknown who would win the battle. Ling Xiao, get out! King Zhu Wu's eyes were filled with murderous aura and his voice was like thunder. In an instant, he slapped with his palm and an unparalleled palm print fell. He wanted to smash the courtyard below into dust. The unparalleled power spread and the surrounding people couldn't help but turn pale. Virum. However, at that moment, the void shook slightly. It was as though there was an extremely strange power that spread out. King Zhu Wu's palm seemed to have stopped in the void and the space seemed to have frozen. The courtyard below moved slightly and the power of King Zhu Wu's palm was dissolved completely. A faint yet ethereal voice sounded. King Zhu Wu, are you in such a hurry to die? In the courtyard, Ling Xiao walked out. His temperament was extraordinary and his eyes were shining with resplendent starlight. They were deep and bright and they landed on King Zhu Wu's body. You are Ling Xiao. What a strong power of spacetime. I didn't expect you to have such attainments in the Time Dao origin and Space Dao origin. King Zhu Wu stared at Ling Xiao in front of him. His eyes were sharp and bright as though he was getting to know Ling Xiao all over again. Just now, his domineering and fierce palm strike had been easily neutralized by Ling Xiao using the power of time and space. Seeing how Ling Xiao was so relaxed, King Zhu Wu's attitude towards Ling Xiao became more serious.